Washio demonstrated an advanced spell that turned water into snow, captivating his unusual students. One small creature watched in awe, secretly dreaming of becoming human one day. Jealous classmates voiced their own desires, each longing to marry their admired teacher. The octopus student reflected sadly on their inhuman form, overwhelmed by self-conscious thoughts, feeling rejected. The creature believed its appearance brought discomfort to others in the class. The octopus student feared rejection, but Washio gently reassured it with quiet encouragement. Meanwhile, students left the academy, chatting casually and unaware of the emotional storm ahead. An accidental bump startled a girl, who froze when she realized who stood before her. Without hesitation, she insulted him for his age and smell, dismissing his concern entirely. Washio tried to laugh it off, but the words lingered, quietly bruising his pride. Washio stood quietly as a new student entered, drawing his silent attention. Curious and slightly dazed, he couldn't help but notice her presence and her figure. Another teacher bluntly blurted out an observation, startling Washio out of his trance. He tried to regain composure, asking if she was lost and noticing the unfamiliar luggage. Without warning, the girl smiled warmly and embraced him, leaving him stunned and confused. Washio stood still, overwhelmed by the weight of silent stares and recent insults. A new student clung to his arm, drawing judgmental looks and cruel whispers from others. With a bright smile, she asked for directions, pressing close and catching him off guard. He explained where to go, but she kept holding on, causing more awkward tension. Opening her case, she searched for a map only to realize she'd left it behind. Panic set in as she realized the wrong suitcase had been brought to the academy. Washio gently placed a hand on her head, reminding her that rushing leads to mistakes. Smiling warmly, he reassured her that calm thinking could always fix what went wrong. She listened closely while he explained how to request a replacement from the academic office. With a light smile, she echoed his wisdom, determined not to repeat the same error. Washio recalled his past clerical job, reflecting on moments when he lost important data. His attempt to relate was met with confusion, prompting him to dismiss the story awkwardly. Without further comment, he turned away and walked back toward the teacher's office. Left behind, the girl watched him go, her expression quietly turning somber. She wondered if he had truly failed to understand her intention and feelings. The elf instructor handed Washio a stack of papers, asking him to handle corrections. Washio tried giving an excuse, but the sharp response left him cornered at his desk. Boasting of his achievements, the elf suggested that simple tasks suited Washio better. With a forced smile, Washio accepted the role, unsure whether he was being mocked. Left alone, he continued working, unaware of the harsh judgment spoken behind his back. Exhausted from the day, Washio wandered the quiet streets in search of food and rest. Passing by a lively tavern, he resisted the urge to join, reminded of his empty wallet. Eventually, he returned to the dormitory through a dim alley, weary and hungry. The housekeeper greeted him unexpectedly, startling him on the stairs. With warmth, she offered leftovers and gently teased his single life, leaving him speechless. Washio laughed off the idea of marriage, joking about his low status with the housekeeper. Once inside, his smile faded as silence welcomed him back to his cluttered room. He dropped his things and moved past the mess toward the table without hesitation. After a quiet meal, he collapsed on the bed, drained and lost in thought. Staring blankly, he muttered to himself, questioning if he'd ever find someone by his side. During a quiet shower, Washio reflected on his former life as an unremarkable office worker. He recalled how a simple moment reading quotes on the train led to his sudden teleportation in the new world. He became a hero, fighting through ruins and rescuing survivors. His journey eventually brought him to a strange lab, where sinister experiments were conducted. Faced with a massive spider in a glass chamber, he froze, overwhelmed by terror and disbelief. Washio woke from a nightmare, screaming and gripped by a panic he couldn't explain. Gasping for breath, he sat frozen, haunted by memories that wouldn't fade. He reflected on his fall from a once-hailed hero to an ordinary teacher with unmet expectations. His thoughts spiraled deeper, lamenting a life that failed to reach even simple dreams. As students chattered nearby, he sat quietly with a cigarette, masking regret behind drifting smoke. After reflecting quietly under the night sky, Washio smiled faintly and decided to rest. The next morning, he returned to the academy, greeted by familiar jabs and messy classrooms. Colleagues teased him again about his appearance, prompting him to check for any foul odor. Mid-discussion, he was informed about a new arrival, a monster girl transferring to the school. Confused by the news, Washio admitted ignorance, only to be met with sarcastic resignation from the elf teacher. Monster girls were introduced as beautiful, powerful beings, with physical and intellectual superiority over elves. Despite their mystery, They were once monsters, and their transformation into human like forms remained unexplained. Limnoa reminded Washio that, as a biology teacher, such knowledge should be basic for him. Government officials praised the monster girls for their elite talents, hinting at their future importance. A formal introduction followed, presenting the new transfer student as a prestigious addition to the academy. Claudia cheerfully introduced herself as a member of the Kraken species, capturing everyone's attention instantly. Shock rippled through the room as students whispered about her appearance and revealed identity. Though given time to choose a mentor, Claudia boldly declared she had already decided. She approached someone with familiarity, causing confusion and surprise among those watching. With a playful smile, she wrapped a tentacle around Washio, revealing she had known him all along though he remained clueless. Washio stared in disbelief, connecting the cheerful girl to a familiar octopus from his class. Memories of a battlefield and an injured creature rushed back as he recalled that moment. He had once offered his hand, saving a life without knowing its future. Now, that same creature stood before him reborn as a joyful monster girl. Hearing the morning bell, Washio sprinted through town, desperately trying not to be late again. Inside the classroom, surprised students greeted him. He arrived just in time, panting and relieved. On the way, he spotted Claudia. Without hesitation, he offered her a ride to school. Together they soared through the sky, wind rushing past. As he clung to her confidently back in class, he smiled. The once lost creature he'd rescued had become his eager student. Recognition dawned as Washio realized the student before him was the same girl he once saved. Whispers rose among faculty, questioning the fairness of a familiar connection between teacher and student. Despite protests, the director approved the assignment, leaving others uneasy but unable to object further. A higher, ranked instructor tried to intervene, claiming superiority, attempting to discredit Washio's suitability for the role. Claudia stood firm beside her teacher, rejecting status-based judgments and defending Washio with unwavering loyalty. Washio realized his awkward stance may have upset another teacher, leaving him slightly uneasy, trying to shift focus. He opened a folder while brushing off concern from Claudia. Claudia beamed with joy, expressing how enjoyable class had been since she transferred. Washio reviewed the form regarding her future, touched by her preference for his subject. He acknowledged her potential, noting her status would easily secure a high-ranking position someday. Claudia clenched her fists, believing she had only one viable path set by others. Her classmates' suggestions echoed, pushing her toward the prestigious King's department, like it was expected. Support from peers and teachers pressured her, framing the decision as obvious and logical. Despite the praise, she questioned whether meeting expectations was truly the right path. Washio hesitated, doubting his guidance, suggesting she seek advice from someone more capable than him. Claudia questioned his role as her advisor, but Washio could only offer a vague reply. He urged her not to stress, though she remained deep in thought while leaving the room. Later, they met at the cafeteria where Washio eagerly collected a modest meal for himself. Claudia noticed his struggle, mentioning the financial issue while showing concern for his health. Without hesitation, she submitted her completed form, surprising Washio with her confident decision. An enraged teacher tore the form, rejecting the idea of a monster girl becoming one. He belittled Claudia's choice, insisting she aim higher and mocking her desire to teach. As tension rose, Washio stepped in, attempting to de-escalate the situation with calm words. He reminded them both that students' wishes deserve respect, especially from those meant to guide. Outraged, the teacher dismissed Washio's stance, viewing it as a threat to societal structure. Students gathered nearby, murmuring as the confrontation between two instructors grew increasingly tense. Hearing the accusation, Washio reflected on his inadequacies and silently began to accept the suggestion. Just as tension peaked, a sudden surprise halted the arrogant professor mid-thought. Claudia intervened without hesitation, physically restraining the professor while standing firmly in Washio's defense, with clear conviction. She declared Washio had always believed in her, calling him a great teacher. Claudia recalled the moment when she struggled with self-worth, remembering Washio's quiet encouragement. Her statement left everyone confused, unfamiliar with the Japanese phrase she referenced from her teacher. She smiled, as she explained its meaning using personal strengths as a path forward. Elsewhere, a student monster yearned to become human, hoping it would lead to closeness with Washio. Despite fears of rejection, the student listened as another prepared to share something heartfelt with everyone. Washio gently placed the octopus on the desk, repeating the words that once inspired change. He explained the message, further encouraging students to value their uniqueness instead of chasing others' strengths. While others debated meanings, he clarified that this version was his personal favorite interpretation. He assured the octopus student that dreams were possible, offering full support and belief. Looking back, Washio never expected his words to guide someone toward becoming a confident monster girl. Claudia stood proudly beside Washio, declaring he helped her recognize and embrace her own strengths. Despite her words, Limnoa hesitated, questioning if the Washio of the past was better suited. Voices from the crowd challenged Limnoa's stance, defending Washio and pointing out his refusal to listen. Overwhelmed, Limnoa began to tear up, leaving everyone surprised by his emotional reaction. As he ran away crying, Claudia casually invited Washio to lunch, returning things to normal. Washio reflected on Claudia's growth, proud that she now aspired to become a teacher herself. Watching her walk ahead, he quietly admitted he'd forgotten the joy found in simple truths. Seeing her recall his words, he smiled, touched that they resonated even after 20 years. He realized that inspiring students like her was the real reward of his teaching journey. Back at the counter, daily life resumed, complete with Washio asking for yet another small loan. The teacher introduced a student with impressive magical potential, warning others not to underestimate her skills. Though she smiled gently, a sudden movement revealed her monstrous strength as she shattered a stone. News spread quickly, and students praised Claudia's unmatched talent as she left the biology room. Curious classmates discussed her growing popularity, amazed by her strength hidden beneath such a delicate appearance. Grateful for her support, the teacher thanked her, while she cheerfully offered help without hesitation. Claudia chose to stay by Washio-sensei's side, feeling comfortable in his presence. Seeing him struggle with the board, she extended a tentacle to help erase the top section. Although limited to 3 meters, her stretch amazed him and proved unexpectedly helpful in class. She cheerfully praised her tentacles, proudly showing off their versatility with a playful expression. Washio realized they could stretch, shrink, and even crush stone, a power both impressive and terrifying. Claudia proudly demonstrated how her tentacles could also serve as excellent tools for massages. Washio-sensei was overwhelmed by the sensation, clearly impressed by her unusual, yet effective method. With a calm smile, she leaned in and offered to give him additional massage treatments. Lowering her voice, she teased him with suggestive gestures and pinpointed a more sensitive spot. Suddenly laughing, she revealed it was all a joke, catching him off guard with her charm. Claudia boldly declared her age, justifying her attempt to act more charming around her teacher. Caught off guard, Washio nervously tried to change the subject as the bell rang in time. Though she put on a smile, she quietly admitted wanting to stay with him longer. She left for lunch, waving goodbye, while Washio silently watched her walk away in thought. Alone at his desk, realization struck him hard. His heart was no longer unaffected. Claudia sighed, frustrated by the effort it took to act attractive around others. Rushing toward a carriage, she realized she was running late for an appointment. A mysterious woman arrived in town, wondering if Washio-sensei still remembered her face. That night, haunted by memory and slime, he twisted in bed, tormented by bizarre dreams. On his rare day off, the teacher strolled through town, savoring a rare moment of peace. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit his back, and he could barely move without wincing in discomfort. Before he could react, a mysterious woman appeared and startled him with her sudden approach. She smiled confidently, hinting that she had changed greatly since their last encounter long ago. As she lifted her skirt slightly, he stared in shock, unsure how to process her boldness. The woman revealed her identity as the spider he once saved, now transformed into a monster girl. They entered a small restaurant together, her eyes wide with wonder at the modest interior. While admiring the ruined chandelier, she casually pointed out its poor condition without hesitation. A staff member scolded her for sitting on his seat, causing a scene in front of others. Despite the tension, he chose to prepare something special for her as a gesture of thanks. She savored the meal with delight, her cheeks full and eyes closed in satisfaction. While enjoying the dish, she unintentionally criticized the food, sparking concern from her flustered companion. With confidence, she introduced herself as Arya, no longer the timid little spider he once knew. He reminisced about the shy creature that once clung to classroom corners, now grown and radiant. Her transformation was shaped by his kind words, which had given her strength during dark times. She brought up his teaching, curious about the kind of magic he shared with his students. With a calm voice, she revealed her new path, now working as a biology teacher. He gave a quiet smile, acknowledging how much had changed since their earlier days. Their conversation turned to the tiny octopus she once knew, now also transformed and renamed Claudia. Though their bond remained close, he silently admitted their student-teacher relationship felt awkward and complicated now. Without hesitation, she raised her mug and demanded the priciest dishes, shocking everyone around her. After the meal, they stepped outside. She offered to pay, but he politely declined with a joke. A carriage appeared before them, and she declined his offer to escort her, already well prepared. As the night breeze blew, she embraced him gently and expressed hope to meet again soon. Smiling softly against his chest, she admitted how happy she felt just spending time with him. As they exchanged final smiles, the night ended with a quiet farewell between them. Inside the carriage, she sat silently, her hat placed beside her, and legs twitching nervously. Looking at her hands, she smiled with pride, having finally embraced him as she dreamed. Her joy dimmed as she recalled his words about Claudia, which struck her unexpectedly. She glanced at the unopened gift, wondering if returning now would let her catch him. Claudia enthusiastically returned to find her teacher, hoping to spend more time together after class. Instead, she heard he had already left with a mysterious and beautiful black-haired woman. She walked along the quiet street, hoping to find Washio-sensei before the day ended. While wondering whether to deliver the gift tomorrow, cries of alarm echoed through the air, flames engulfed the church, chaos spread fast. She froze as desperate calls for help rang out, smoke thickened. Children ran in panic. Bystanders tried containing the blaze, but the fire raged on, screams filled the square. A nun pleaded to rescue a trapped child still inside the burning church. Panic spread as someone cried out about a child still trapped inside the burning church. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and offered her help, calming the worried nun with confidence. Ignoring warnings, she charged ahead, sprinting straight into the blazing building without slowing down. Thick smoke filled the air as she entered the collapsing structure, fire licking at every surface. Despite the danger, she readied herself. Her water magic was rusty, but a child's life depended on it. She stepped deeper into the blazing ruins, calling out through the smoke for the missing child. A faint cough caught her attention. She rushed forward, eyes scanning the haze for any movement. Collapsed beneath fallen beams, the child gasped for air, barely conscious and unable to move. She lifted him onto her back, whispered reassurance, then sprinted toward the exit without hesitation. Pausing outside, she readied her lightning magic. If needed, she'd obliterate everything blocking their way. She hesitated, realizing her lightning magic might harm the unconscious child clinging to her back. While considering alternatives, a new presence entered, an ominous figure prepared to cast powerful magic. A massive summoned beast formed behind the man, pulsing with thunder and overwhelming magical force. Recognizing him, she watched in awe as his spell effortlessly parted debris with precision and control. Once the kingdom's strongest magician, he now stood as a teacher still capable, yet feeling his age. Inside the flooded ruins, broken beams drift while fish glide silently through the submerged church. From outside, villagers gathered in disbelief, staring at the structure encased in an enormous dome of water. A curious girl chased a swimming fish, slipping past the crowd and nearing the watery barrier. She reached out, but another woman quickly stepped through the barrier, cradling an unconscious child. Panic spread among the crowd as they rushed to help, shouting for a doctor immediately. She calmly explained that healing magic had been used, but urged a doctor's checkup. Anyway, villagers whispered in awe, recognizing the powerful spellwork only a monster girl could perform. Surrounded by praise, she denied the grand titles, brushing off compliments with visible discomfort. One teacher gently pushed responsibility onto her, clearly impressed, but unwilling to take charge himself. Crowds gathered again, cheering around her, while she stood overwhelmed by the sudden attention, curious about the swimming creatures. The girl asked if the magical fish were real too. Joyfully, she played with them, completely captivated by their graceful movement around her arms. As she spoke, the girl explained how a stranger's magic had lifted her sadness. That kindness remained in her heart, inspiring a deep admiration for the joy magic brings. Elsewhere, the dark-haired woman silently called upon something, or someone hidden, readying for what's to come. With awkward gratitude, the teacher accepted the flower crown from the spider-like creature once again. When asked why he taught magic, the response came simply: he wanted to help their future. The teacher smiled, explaining a phrase he cherished: the secret to living is giving. Whether offering knowledge or kindness, he believed giving created happiness for both the giver and receiver. Touched, the spider listened quietly, as he declared this purpose would define their life's meaning. Encouraged by his words, they decided to share the flowers with others around them. As Washio walked away, his quiet generosity left a lasting impression on those he'd helped. At school, students chatted about the fire, crediting a new monster girl named Arya. Rumors spread quickly, but one girl already suspected the truth behind the event. She confronted Arya, confident that Washio had been the one who controlled the water. Students spoke excitedly, wishing they'd witnessed Washio Sensei's magic firsthand during the town incident. Arya noted that even the muscular man had changed, and the number of fish had grown. Washio approached, catching their conversation, and asked if they were reminiscing about past events. With sincerity, she thanked him once again, offering a gift in appreciation for his past help. Smiling, she echoed his words, giving was living, and now it was her turn to give back. He received the gift, opened it carefully, and allowed her to fasten the tie around his collar. Pleased with how it looked, she admired the result, while others reacted with embarrassment below. The gathering crowd commented on the scene, amused by the teacher's unexpected affection. A student expressed her desire to join the Magic Guard, impressing the faculty with her talent. Touched by her determination, the teacher offered full support, despite feeling awkward about the sudden hug later. He reflected on how both Claudia and Arya were striving to shape their futures. Elsewhere, confident instructors began boasting about their star students, already gearing up for the upcoming competition. Meanwhile, Limnoa's elite group stood poised, undefeated for years and favored to dominate once again. Teachers grew more invested in the student competitions, but Washio chose to stay uninvolved. At the fountain, old classmates teased Arya about her past behavior and food preferences. While one girl dreamed of teaching, the other admired peaceful coexistence between humans and monsters. Surrounded by laughter, they enjoyed the moment as curiosity bloomed among nearby students. Suddenly, an upperclassman addressed them, encouraging both to stay focused on their future goals. A confident upperclassman extended an invitation, asking the girls to join his faction on campus. Frederick introduced himself with flair, followed by two others proudly stating their faction affiliations. The girls tried to understand the structure, learning that factions functioned like magic study groups. Unsure of their response, they hesitated while Frederick energetically promoted the group's strengths. He emphasized their potential, promising unmatched improvement if they accepted his bold offer. Frederick leaned forward, eager to hear their answer after his confident proposal to join. Without hesitation, one girl firmly declined, causing visible tension and surprise among the group. The other student refused politely, stressing that decisions shouldn't be forced or influenced unfairly. Both shared their preferences, explaining their discomfort with groups and focus on combat skills. Frustrated by rejection, Frederick suddenly challenged them to a duel, escalating the situation instantly. A towering wave surged as the duel began, summoned by the opponent without waiting for consent. Reacting quickly, the monster girl deflected the magic, her control over water impressively precise. Frederick praised her skills, urging the second girl to respond, despite being already turned down. Growing frustrated, he decided to escalate the challenge, aiming to provoke a real response. Elsewhere, a lesson on magic principles began, explaining how rank affects summoning manifestations. The instructor paused as an unfamiliar magical presence began to form before his eyes. A massive wolf-like figure emerged, radiating power that startled everyone observing the duel. A phenomenon tied to magical ability emerges from one's shadow during spellcasting. It's involuntary in front of the class. A powerful visual appears behind the instructor, a spectral beast. Standing calmly, he reveals the towering werewolf is a direct reflection of his magic power. With quiet confidence, he observes the students' reactions, unfazed by their astonishment. He explains that size matters most. Magical spirits reflect their caster's strength, not form. Magic power is judged by size. A larger spirit signals greater strength during invocation. From the rooftop, students observe Frederick and his spirit. His power has steadily increased. While others guess his rank, a girl evaluates his imp carefully before giving her estimate. Frederick begins his demonstration. A towering ice weapon forms above. As he channels extreme cold, the knife crashes down. In the aftermath, he stands firm while shielding the girl beside him. Frederick smirks while asking if the girl was impressed by the size of his magic. He attributes his power to perfect recitation, confident that high-rank magic is within his grasp. With bold enthusiasm, he invites the monster girls to join his faction, flaunting his skills. From above, students whisper admiration. Cutting the giant target only deepened their impression of him. Despite the feat, the girl remains unimpressed. Her sharp stare labels his efforts disappointing. Though his magic held power, comparison to Washio's strength cast doubt among the onlookers. The girl firmly declined his invitation, expressing her intent to learn from Washio instead. Assumptions followed. They suspected her loyalty stemmed from a personal debt owed to Washio. Frederick mocked the teacher's stagnant rank, dismissing him as weak and manipulative, without knowing the truth. As the bell tolled, an eerie stillness surrounded Frederick. His smug expression remained unchanged. A sudden blast erupts in front of Frederick, scattering debris and stunning nearby students. Claudia confronts them in fury, condemning the ridicule directed at Washio and his teachings. Her power draws attention. Spectators react in awe and concern as her magic flares unexpectedly. Despite the criticism, she defends her form and identity with unwavering confidence. Another girl joins her. Summoning a fearsome spirit, she demands respect for Washio, sensei's name. Shock overwhelmed him as monstrous strength unfolded. Their magical force exceeded everything he had imagined before. A monster girl unleashed her massive tentacles, causing destruction and panic across the classroom without warning. Standing defiantly, her companions demanded an apology from the boy who insulted their beloved teacher. Cracks echoed ominously as the lead monster girl questioned the stunned student's silence and disbelief. With sharp intensity in her eyes, she ordered him to apologize immediately, sending chills through him. From a distance, witnesses marveled at the power behind the monster girl's bold, unrelenting loyalty. A sudden explosion shook the academy, prompting staff to rush out in alarm and confusion. Smoke and debris clouded the view as they realized the destruction came from the tower. Suspicion immediately fell on the monster girls, despite no clear proof or investigation. Claudia stepped forward, defending her group while pointing blame toward the boy who had provoked them. Unexpectedly, the accused boy confessed his love, stunning everyone with his sudden emotional outburst. He marveled at the monster girl's explosive power, stunned by the magic she'd just unleashed. Even with a limiting ring, she exhibited overwhelming strength that left him completely fascinated. Convinced by emotion, he confessed his feelings and proposed marriage without hesitation. Flustered and cornered, she shouted that this wasn't a romantic dispute, denying the awkward moment. Elsewhere, onlookers questioned the chaos, blaming poor supervision for the destruction and unresolved tension. The teacher tried to defend the girls, believing they must have had good intentions. Offering assistance, the elf suggested handling them himself, hinting it would be easier for everyone. Watching from afar, the teacher smiled, acknowledging the elf's persistence, despite his smug demeanor. Eventually, the students turned in their written apology, albeit with lingering tension and resistance. During questioning, Frederick admitted fault while Claudia's actions were confirmed as self-defense. Despite warnings to be cautious, the boy dismissed responsibility, claiming he was under another teacher's care. He insisted Claudia had been brainwashed, promising to rescue her and start a relationship together. Arya, however, faced blatant rejection as he mocked her monstrous appearance, without remorse. Still, he extended an offer to join his faction, only to be flatly refused again. Watching the awkward scene, the teacher smiled quietly, muttering something about the vigor of youth. Both girls scolded the teacher sharply, leaving him flustered and quickly apologizing. He nervously tried to justify his thoughts, comparing himself unfavorably to a younger man. Pouting, she declared her frustration, then boldly asked him out on a date. Meanwhile, another student left without apologizing, prompting silent disapproval from those nearby. Two girls sat nervously as the teacher warned them about misusing magic outside class boundaries. Smiling mischievously, one of them left for class, reminding the teacher of their promised date afterward. Later, she stepped out in a new outfit, confidently seeking validation from her friends. Another girl soon appeared, also dressed up, hoping to receive a similar compliment. With a cheerful grin, the teacher praised both girls, making everyone around them cheer with joy. One girl leaned in with excitement, asking her teacher which color suited her the most. His vague answer didn't impress her, prompting a glare while the other girl calmly observed. After being told both outfits were expensive, she decided to buy them regardless. The black-haired girl revealed her reason for tagging along. She wanted to join their date. Their rivalry intensified silently, with Washio caught between two eager and determined students. Some girls nearby whispered doubts about Washio's capabilities, labeling him a weak-level E-teacher. Unfazed, the group wandered into town together, casually planning to grab crepes and enjoy sweets. While one girl teased him with dessert, another sat silently, annoyed by the bold move. Embarrassed by the scene, Washio drew attention from a drunken local who made things worse. The awkward encounter ended with misunderstandings, as onlookers wrongly assumed a scandalous relationship was forming. The girls teased Washio about his low teaching rank, urging him to seek a promotion. Their expressions soured upon learning that he shared the same rank as the elegant Ramona. Rather than feel offended, Washio smiled, and admitted he preferred a quiet life without pressure. Even older townsfolk criticized his attitude, while students quietly acknowledged how overlooked he truly was. Motivated by the situation, the girls hinted at a plan to prove his true value. The girls quickly dismissed Washio, claiming they needed privacy for an important conversation between themselves. As they talked secretly, others again pushed the idea that Washio should chase a promotion. Moments later, both girls abruptly canceled their plans, claiming urgent matters required their attention. Now alone, Washio reluctantly agreed to drinks with an older man seeking someone to talk to. Evening came quietly, and Washio sat in solitude, eating under the night sky in silence. While eating quietly, Washio noticed both Claudia and Arya were missing from the usual group. Arya suddenly appeared, requesting his signature with an oddly formal document in hand. He soon discovered it was for founding the Washio faction, leaving him visibly alarmed. Arya stood confidently, announcing the existence of the Washio faction. Meanwhile, Washio slammed his head on the table, overwhelmed by yet another complication. A fellow teacher dismissed the idea outright, claiming it was impossible due to E-rank limitations. She confidently presented her argument. The faction used a unique magic system, had recruited 3 students, and secured a D-rank supervisor, Washio himself. Washio stared blankly at the paperwork. 2 decades had passed without any promotions, yet now he was suddenly elevated to D rank. The truth came out. Arya had threatened to leave the school if the faction wasn't approved. Pressured by her ultimatum, the director reluctantly allowed it. Arya eagerly pushed the form toward Washio, asking for his signature. Defeated. He reluctantly agreed and sighed, pen in hand. Before signing, he paused. A gentle smile crossed his face as he questioned whether starting a new faction was really the right path. He encouraged her to consider alternatives. Joining an existing faction could still help her grow. More interactions with students might deepen her understanding of magic far better than isolation. Washio suggested she accept Frederick's repeated invitations. The Rimnoa faction offered opportunity and support she hadn't yet explored. Acknowledging Arya's aversion to Rimnoa-sensei, he reassured her. Although proud, the man was a brilliant and capable teacher. Tears welled up in Arya's eyes as she stared at Washio, determination overtaking her hesitation. He watched in shock, unable to respond to the sudden shift in her expression. Hands trembling, she declared his true worth rather than protest, his unfair E-rank. He bore it quietly. Her voice wavered as she admitted her frustration. Seeing his talents unrecognized, while others dismissed him, angered her deeply. Washio attempted to apologize, but she cut him off. Her demand was simple: sign the document and stop apologizing. His eyes fell half-lidded, gaze distant. Flashbacks of a ruined place and dead beasts returned. Memories that dulled his will to resist. Washio stood stunned. Mid-thought, as a lively student rushed toward him, holding a letter aloft. With a cheerful tone, she explained she'd found it at his desk and emphasized its urgency. The message inside was blunt. His landlord, preparing to retire, had passed control to his son, who promptly decided to evict him. A wave of dread washed over him. Thoughts spiraled. Losing his home just before turning 50 felt cruel and inescapable. He lowered the letter, hands shaking, and tried to process the news. Across from him, a voice called his name, breaking the silence. Arya's words cut through Washio's uncertainty. She didn't care about his reasons. What mattered was that they wanted to learn from him. Stunned, he paused, slowly processing the sincerity in her expression. A faint smile replaced his hesitation. Her enthusiasm proved too strong to resist. He finally gave in, reaching for the paper and preparing to sign. As he scribbled his name, he rationalized the decision. Supervising the faction would require little effort and came with benefits, housing, and a pay raise. Even so, the weight of past failures and haunting memories clung to him, surrounded by shadows of his regrets. He sat alone at the desk, silently committing to a new beginning. With a deep breath, Washio pressed his pen to the form, finally writing his signature. Everyone rushed to check, but confusion erupted. He had accidentally written Watsuo instead of Washio. The others questioned whether it was a mistake or intentional. Outside, the day carried on quietly. At a distant location, a tower stood crumbling beside an occupied building. Inside that dark facility, a dormant girl remained, powered by a magical system. Her energy source was nearly depleted, with only 5% remaining. Inside the director's office, Washio and her group requested permission to establish a new faction. Despite their organized proposal, the director refused immediately. His calm yet firm denial caught everyone off guard. Washio protested the decision, pointing out they had met all formal requirements. Frustration filled the room as she stood her ground. A quiet girl revealed the reason the raising ring already existed. This revelation stunned Washio. To explain further, the group learned of the magical research group's structure. Each faction studied magic differently: vocal summoning, ritual incense, and simulated summoning with rings. After leaving the office, the group stood in silence, defeated. The teacher suggested finding a different solution. He realized the urgency of the situation. Without a faction, there'd be no dorm. The pressure mounted. Suddenly, a flamboyant young man appeared, calling Claudia his honey, catching everyone off guard with the greeting. Claudia, visibly uncomfortable, asked him to stop using pet names. But the boy continued his flattery confidently. The teacher observed their exchange and remarked on their closeness. Claudia quickly denied it, clearly flustered by the comment. As Washio slumped in frustration, the cheerful boy suddenly mentioned that she had received a message. The message revealed that Claudia had accidentally destroyed the Rimowa faction's magic reactor in a tower. A replacement needed to be found inside the ominous Tower of Ghosts. Describing it as a crumbling structure linked to the main building, he added a chilling detail: real ghosts were rumored to appear there. He leaned in closer, teasing Claudia for being scared, but assured her that Washio would be with them. Smiling confidently, the calm girl encouraged the others to get moving, ending the tense moment with quiet resolve. Washio pointed out that Claudia caused the damage, though she reminded everyone it was a team effort. Standing before the ominous tower, he admitted he didn't want to go inside. The idea of ghosts unsettled him more than he expected. Reluctantly, they entered the structure. The teacher urged the group to find the magic reactor quickly and leave. Meanwhile, Frederick reported to his superior, confirming that he had guided the teacher and Claudia as instructed. Pleased by the update, the elf praised Frederick's work. In return, Frederick hoped his actions would earn favor and secure his beloved's place in the faction. Rimowa revealed his dramatic plan: wait for Washio to panic, swoop in stylishly, and earn admiration. Confidently, he proclaimed it a flawless strategy to free her mind from brainwashing, basking in his imagined success. He and Frederick then recited the core principles of their faction: intelligence as the foundation of strength. With synchronized intensity, they declared the second and third values: wealth and pride, both ranked A in importance. Frederick expressed hope that his honey would also adopt these ideals. Meanwhile, Rimowa eagerly anticipated meeting the monster girls. Rimowa smirked, believing control was within reach. Meanwhile, the trio stepped into the chamber, ready for what awaited. Inside the ruined tower, Claudia leaned forward, overwhelmed by emotion. Washio, sensei, startled, urged her to calm down. Though he tried to stay composed, his focus wavered as something unexpectedly soft brushed against his face. She clung to him tightly, her guard completely dropped. Taken aback, Washio questioned the situation he'd landed in. Only moments later, they regrouped with the others. The goal was clear: retrieve the magic reactor hidden within the ghost-infested tower. Despite her earlier boldness, fear crept into Claudia's eyes. As the others entered the dark corridor, she hesitated and stepped back. A cold breeze swept through the hallway as the old door creaked open on its own. Everyone froze. Without warning, a shadowy figure lunged forward. Washio instinctively grabbed Claudia and sprinted through the archway. Footsteps echoed behind them. As they fled deeper, a trapdoor opened beneath their feet without notice. Falling rapidly, they managed to glance at each other mid-air. Stunned and disoriented by the sudden drop, claws shot from the wall, threatening to pierce them. Their teammate acted quickly, deploying her weapon to slow the fall. Reaching for the others, she kept a calm expression while anchoring them safely. After tumbling into the trap room, the group scrambled to their feet. Behind them, the exit slammed shut. Claustrophobic tension filled the air. Claudia, caught in sticky threads, began breathing heavily and confessed something felt off. Confusion spread as she spoke of her monster instincts. Her composure vanished, replaced by an overwhelming desire she couldn't suppress. Ignoring Washio's concern, she drew closer. Confidence flickered in her eyes as she declared their future marriage without hesitation. Panic overtook Washio. Her words echoed in his mind as he begged her to calm down, stunned by her bold assumption. Tension filled the air as Claudia's breathing grew heavier. Washio watched, frozen in disbelief. As she approached, before he could react, she closed the gap and kissed him. His hands trembled, unsure how to respond. The floor beneath them suddenly gave way. They fell together, landing in another hidden room below the ruins. Recovering quickly, Washio asked if Claudia was all right. Her gaze shifted toward a strange orb containing a sleeping girl. An alert blinked to life. The orb housed an automaton, now inert, with a magic level of 0. A cold voice announced a self-destruct countdown. Only 60 seconds remained. Washio and Claudia stared in horror, realizing they had triggered something dangerous. Faced with a ticking countdown, Washio and Claudia scrambled to react. Escape was their only option. Alarms echoed through the room. Doors slammed shut one by one, leaving them surrounded and completely trapped. An alarm triggered as a countdown began, echoing through the chamber. They rushed to the exit, but the door wouldn't budge. Inside a pod, the girl designated O2 remained eerily calm. Her steady expression contrasted sharply with the escalating tension. From above, the scene revealed a high-tech lab with a mysterious capsule at its center. One of them pointed out the manual, urging everyone to stop the process before it was too late. Rummaging through a dusty drawer, they uncovered an old tome. Flipping it open, They found pages filled with arcane symbols and diagrams. Uncertainty filled the air, while one struggled to understand the content. Another began to grasp its meaning. With the countdown still ticking, the man approached the capsule. Each step felt heavier under the pressure of time, but hesitation wasn't an option. A sudden vision overtook him. Dark energy crackled as a monstrous figure emerged. Electricity surged around the lab as the girl observed nervously. The spell succeeded, halting the automaton's descent into destruction. Laughter returned after the tension faded. She praised him for his heroism, still calling him by his old title. Pointing at the book, she questioned its true nature. He proudly acknowledged her as a student, before silently questioning the wisdom of allowing this all to unfold in the first place. Holding the ancient tome, the man confirmed its authenticity, though he had never seen one firsthand. Despite its appearance, reading the text proved difficult. Most of the writing was indecipherable, with only a few scattered phrases offering any clues. She studied the pages with growing fascination. Inspired, she declared the book should become a research project for their group. Surprised by her sudden enthusiasm, he questioned her meaning. She clarified with confidence the magic book was their new priority. Without warning, the girl from the pod began to move. Her body stirred gently, and her eyes slowly opened. The girl inside the pod finally spoke, surprising them both. Her voice was calm, yet filled with purpose. Awakened, after a long slumber, she apologized for the delay. A message written on an old page confirmed her thoughts. It was indeed her master's handwriting. As she read, memories of time spent with her creator surfaced. Warm moments of discovery and shared ambition. Understanding that her creator had passed, she reflected with quiet acceptance. Her role was complete. Though invited to join them, she declined. With no master to serve, she returned to sleep. Her existence once again paused until someone worthy appeared. The two stood before the sleeping girl, her pod sealed once again. He admitted defeat, unwilling to take on the role she sought. Turning away, he insisted he was nothing more than a biology teacher, despite his magical ability. She protested, but he wouldn't budge. Silence fell as his steps echoed across the lab. She watched him, unsure what he truly felt. Inside the capsule, her mission remained. He quietly recalled her final request to continue the research together. Inside the dim facility, the teacher walked ahead with silent determination. A student followed close behind, her voice trembling with concern. The man's name echoed through the hall. Washio, Sensei. Behind him, the voice grew louder, desperate for a response. Standing alone before the capsule, Washio silently faced the girl within. Eyes closed, hands folded, she rested peacefully. He gripped a letter and a thick book. The note spoke of magic, talent, and youth. Confused, he questioned the age requirement, knowing he no longer fit the description. The book's secrets unraveled, a powerful grimoire protected by a guardian automaton. The sleeping girl was its key. The capsule glowed faintly in the quiet lab. Time had drained his magical strength, leaving him unable to sustain both the grimoire and the girl any longer. Despite his fading power, memories of their days together brought him peace. Each morning spent researching magic beside her had given his life renewed meaning. Gripping the grimoire tightly, he accepted the end of his role. He dismissed his worth, claiming the artifacts were beyond the grasp of a simple biology teacher. The girl stood silently, watching as he climbed the stairs. Uncertainty filled her eyes. Though hesitant, she followed him step by step, carrying the unspoken burden of what lay ahead. The automaton's serene face remained unchanged, while the girl beside her hesitated, glancing up toward Washio's back. She couldn't bear the thought of the girl falling back into endless sleep. With both hands clasped tightly, she pleaded again. Her words were firm yet sincere. She asked him not only to help the girl, though unsure of his place. Washio listened. She didn't understand the burdens he carried, but reminded him of the man she had always known, the dependable teacher who reached out to those in need. Frustration swelled within him. He blamed himself for needing a student's push to act. With a reluctant smile, Washio accepted the role. Though unsure if it suited a teacher, he acknowledged the responsibility. Looking away, he admitted his flaws. The past had shaped him, yet one day, he promised, he would reveal everything to her. The girl's response was gentle. To her, his clumsiness wasn't weakness, it was what made him human. Inside the chamber, the automaton remained still. Washio stood beside her once again, no longer conflicted. As she slept peacefully, the truth became clear. Despite her mechanical body, within her rested something precious, something that couldn't be built or programmed. She had a heart. The old administrator's final message lingered in his thoughts. She asked the new master to give the girl a name, love, and a smile she never received. With quiet resolve, Washio named her Alice. Her eyes slowly opened, reacting to his voice. Alice listened to his words and acknowledged her new name without hesitation. Confused but obedient, she accepted him as her master while still grasping the meaning of it all. As the moment settled in, the student clung to Washio's arm and cheerfully introduced him as their teacher. Alice updated her system, formally recognizing Washio as her new master. Her soft voice addressed him politely while his expression softened. During a trip to the Academy's ghost tower, a mysterious basement was uncovered by chance. Deep inside, a powerful grimoire and an automaton were discovered, long hidden from sight. Realizing what had been retrieved, the professor immediately recognized the artifact as the grimoire of 7 artifacts. Eager to take advantage of the situation, a student requested permission to use the grimoire as a research subject. The principal agreed, but warned the task would be complex. Before them stood the automaton, flanked by intrigued students. The principal praised everyone, noting how exceptional they all were. However, the automaton calmly corrected her, reminding them she was not a student at all. The principal officially approved Washio's request, converting the repaired residence tower into the newly designated ghost tower. Upon hearing they'd have to live among ghosts, several members of the faction reacted with dread. Despite their worries, one student calmly reassured them, claiming the ghost was not only friendly but also quite kind. Arya explained how she had casually chatted with the ghost during their earlier entrapment. Reflecting quietly, the automaton realized someone else had likely protected the others by confronting the ghosts. Washio suggested the girls help Alice find a proper outfit. Although she was technically dressed, her strange appearance left everyone unsure where to focus their gaze. Washio excused himself to handle the paperwork for the ghost tower's restoration, leaving the girls behind. Despite her insistence on staying near her master, Alice hesitantly followed the others. Washio waved them off warmly as the three headed up the stairs, aiming to strengthen their friendship. From the upper window, the girls could be seen chatting as the damaged ghost tower stood quietly outside. Renovation efforts began in earnest. Craftsmen climbed scaffolds and reinforced the crumbling walls, while the group discussed practical matters. Later, Alice returned in a full maid outfit, greeting Washio with formal grace. While the students laughed, Washio questioned the choice. While the girls admired Alice's appearance, one couldn't help but ask if she was blushing. Inside the damaged tower, Washio warned them to stay clear of the hazards. One of the girls offered to help with the repairs, only to be refused at first. As they lifted heavy beams and tools, the girls reminded everyone they weren't ordinary humans, they were monster girls. Looking up at the crumbling wall, a request was made for support. Their teamwork would be crucial to finish the reconstruction and ensure everyone's safety. Activating her sensors, Alice locked onto structural weaknesses. With swift precision, she neutralized potential hazards to protect her master from falling debris. Alice unleashed a powerful beam, completely disintegrating the falling debris above the tower structure. The overwhelming force left everyone speechless as she confirmed the threat had been neutralized. Her hand retracted to reveal skeletal fingers before she gently held Washio's face, checking his condition. Washio assured her he was fine, though her concern clearly touched him. Others observed the moment in silence. He quietly realized Alice had grown attached to him. Grateful, he shifted focus back to the repairs. Reluctantly, the girl listened as the maid explained the situation. Orders from her son left no room for negotiation. Dragging a mattress through the street, he walked aimlessly, with no funds and nowhere to stay. The burden of uncertainty weighed heavily on his shoulders. One student, cheerful and bold, offered him shelter. Her smile masked any awkwardness, and her invitation was clear. Another student stepped in with equal sincerity, gently taking his hand. Her insistence was soft, yet firm, caught between two offers. He struggled to find the proper response beneath the night sky. The students reassured him. Despite his protests, they welcomed him without hesitation. Claudia leaned in close, her playful tone catching him off guard. Her teasing left him speechless, unsure how to respond to the sudden intimacy. Inside the room, she lay on the bed, suggesting they simply talk. Her gaze remained steady. Before he could react, another student joined in. Arya wrapped herself around him, adding chaos to the already tense atmosphere. The third girl stepped forward, eyes steady and confident. She dismissed the idea of limits between student and teacher. Her words blurred the lines of propriety further. Just as the situation threatened to spiral further, another voice cut in. The quiet girl from earlier stepped forward, determined to defend his pride. The teacher raised his voice and declared his popularity. A tall elf girl appeared at the doorway, gaze sharp and expression cold. Without hesitation, she rejected his plea. Despite his begging, she remained unmoved. His appeal to past camaraderie failed to stir any sympathy. She scoffed at the idea of equality, declaring her superior rank. She belittled him openly, claiming that merely sharing space with someone of lower standing was intolerable. With a smug expression, she offered a spot on the balcony. Her voice dripped with mockery as she gestured dismissively, making it clear the offer was an act of condescension, not kindness. He attempted to carry the bed onto the balcony, but it clearly wouldn't fit. The girl stepped in, pointing out the obvious size issue, halting his plan mid-motion. The elf, unfazed, confirmed his intent to use the balcony. One student erupted in protest, calling the situation completely unacceptable, while another urged the teacher to walk away from the absurdity. Faced with no viable options, the students resumed their invitations. Just as tension rose again, the quiet girl raised her hand. Her simple gesture caught everyone's attention. In the end, he found himself back where he should have started. The strange tower room welcomed him without fuss. Washio closed the book gently and offered a warm smile as he wished Alice good night. Across the room, Alice remained still in her capsule, her eyes quietly observing his retreat to sleep. Darkness surrounded the bed as Washio drifted off, but his rest brought forth chaotic memories. A ghostly figure approached him, silent yet overwhelming. His hand instinctively reached out, but the moment erupted into a blinding explosion. On a pile of defeated monsters, a lone figure stood tall, cloaked in menace. Washio's eyes widened as the memory sharpened in clarity. Still shaken, Washio stirred in bed, sensing something pressed against him. His eyes opened slowly in confusion. Realizing Alice had left her capsule and climbed into his bed, he shouted in surprise. Her calm voice asked if she'd disturbed him. She explained her intent was to comfort him, thinking he was trapped in a nightmare. Though grateful, he asked her to release him. Instead of letting go, Alice held him tighter, assuring him she would remain close for his peace of mind. Despite Washio's insistence that he was fine, her gentle gaze remained fixed on him. He couldn't move an inch as her grip tightened, yet her presence radiated warmth. Washio repeated the words aloud, trying to convince himself that everything was indeed fine, though his eyes remained uneasy. A gentle warmth spread across him, and he realized it came from Alice's embrace. He hadn't been hugged in years. That simple closeness stirred a long-forgotten peace in him, easing his mind. Elsewhere, two girls stumbled upon the scene. Shock froze them as they processed what they were witnessing. Still wrapped in Alice's arms, Washio slowly woke. Confused and disoriented, he noticed the others staring in disbelief, while Alice remained calm. The girls exploded in frustration, feeling deceived by Washio's actions. Their voices echoed with sharp disappointment. Panicked, Washio tried to explain. He emphasized Alice's status as a machine, not a living being's. Skepticism remained on their faces. They questioned his claim, unconvinced that nothing happened between them. Growing desperate, he turned to Alice, urging her to clarify the situation and support his defense. With a steady voice, Alice admitted her nature as an automaton, then revealed her ability for reproduction, shocking everyone into silence. Everyone froze in silence after Alice's unexpected statement. Awkward tension filled the room as Washio began sweating. Sudden reactions exploded. Shocked cries followed as an elf calmly questioned Washio's lodging situation, shifting the topic entirely. While Washio-sensei prepares to head out, two girls suddenly approach him. One eagerly clings to his arm, inviting him to lunch. Other students take notice of the scene. Observing from afar, they whisper in amazement at how close the girls are to their teacher. In the classroom, Arya sits quietly, her thoughts drifting. She watches Washio interact with Claudia and Alice, wondering why he never looks her way. Her focus in class fades as emotions cloud her mind. Desperately, she questions how she might win his heart. A sudden realization strikes. She studies the others, comparing herself to them. Doubt begins to form. Arya gathers her courage. After days of hesitation, she finally decides to take action. Determination fills her as she clutches her uniform and stands up. Meanwhile, Washio sits alone at his desk, completely absorbed in a confusing spellbook. He flips through pages without success. None of the symbols make sense to him, and exhaustion sets in. A faint sound interrupts his thoughts. The door creaks open, and Arya quietly enters. A subtle smile forms on her lips as she sees him resting at the desk. With confidence she didn't have before, Arya steps forward. Her transformed appearance catches Washio completely off guard. Arya leans in with a bold smile, asking what Washio-sensei is doing. Her confidence and tone seem completely different from usual. Washio freezes, unsure how to respond. Sweat runs down his face as he tries to grasp what's happening. He cautiously asks if she's feeling all right, or if she consumed something odd. Arya responds smoothly, denying anything unusual. She switches topics, questioning his progress on the spellbook. Washio stammers, surprised by her sudden interest and assertiveness. Observing her closely, he notes several changes. Her tone is unusually direct, her uniform disheveled, and her expression smug. Nothing about her feels normal. Arya approaches with a teasing smile, remarking how warm the classroom feels. Her tone remains playful, while Washio watches cautiously, unsure how to react. His confusion deepens. He notices her rolled up sleeves and loosened attire, yet she still complains about the heat. Arya grows concerned. Her attempt to copy Claudia's boldness doesn't produce the reaction she expected. Suddenly, she leans in closer. A new idea flashes in her mind. Perhaps a more direct approach will work. Washio finds himself resting against her. Arya softly encourages him to take a break. She offers her chest as a pillow, thinking it'll help. Arya steels herself once again. This time, she decides to mimic Alice's behavior. Washio looks up just as the spellbook emits a strange light. Both he and Arya stare at the pages in disbelief as magical energy surges upward. At that moment, Claudia and Alice arrive with more books. They call out to Washio, unaware of the strange development occurring inside the room. Confused by the empty space, Claudia thinks he's missing. Alice, however, calmly points out that he hasn't gone anywhere, something else is happening. The reality sets in. Washio is now trapped inside the spellbook, facing a mysterious test. Two girls stood outside the room, concerned inside. The master and Arya had vanished into a glowing magic book. The pages shimmered unnaturally, revealing their trapped figures transported into a strange realm. He and Arya were surrounded by swirling symbols and radiant energy. The voice continued, stating the trial would determine their worthiness to master the 4 stellar spells. Suddenly, the light intensified. A warning echoed in the void. Failure would result in death. His eyes opened slowly. The fog hung thick in the air, and Arya remained unconscious beside him. Arya slowly sat up as he asked if she was all right. She nodded, still disoriented. Around them, a circular stone platform stretched into thick, unnatural fog. They couldn't tell where it led, but there was no time to waste. While trying to stay focused, he grew anxious about missing an important magical presentation back at the faction meeting. From within the haze, Arya spotted a moving silhouette. A figure approached slowly, its form unclear. As the shape grew closer, it revealed itself not one, but several strange humanoids. With tension rising, he stepped in front of Arya. The creatures advanced with intent to harm. Survival now depended on fighting back. Enemies surrounded them from both sides. He struggled to keep up, his thoughts scattered by the pressure. Arya stayed close, watching him silently. Lightning surged from Arya's hand, striking down the approaching figures with precision. The battlefield cleared. Arya stood tall beside him. He took a step back and left the fight to her. Magic flared again. She directed every attack with accuracy. He remained behind her, quietly observing her capability. They walked forward once more. Arya glanced ahead and paused. A thought settled in her mind. Something had finally become clear. Inside the surreal trial world, she compared their situation to Adam and Eve. No one else existed, just her and Washio. Sensei victory seemed close. The conditions displayed before her showed progress. They were alone. Affection was implied. But the last requirement remained unfulfilled. As their hands brushed by chance, her heart jumped. Uncertainty filled her mind, yet excitement pushed her forward. Arya decided to close the gap between them. Feigning exhaustion, she reached out toward him with a playful expression. Her bold gesture left him speechless as she asked to be carried. He paused and questioned her behavior. Concerned, he gently asked if something was wrong. His words made her hesitate, unsure how to respond to his sincerity. Arya hesitated, revealing her true feelings. She wanted to be seen as more than just a student. While lost in thought, a looming shadow approached from behind. Danger crept closer, unnoticed by her. Arya stood frozen, her voice trembling as she revealed her true intentions. A shadow loomed above, a monstrous figure silently watching her confession unfold. Suddenly, the monster's weapon struck down, narrowly missing her. The teacher lunged forward, grabbing her in time to pull her from danger. Held in his arms, Arya glanced downward, unsure if the impact had left her injured. Confusion lingered on her face as he checked for wounds. Before she could answer, the monster reared back, preparing another devastating attack. Dodging the crushing blow by inches, he rolled across the ground, keeping Arya protected behind him. After the chaos settled, he gently apologized, checking if she was unharmed from their rough escape. Lying beneath him, Arya remained still, her eyes wide with emotion. A brief silence followed, as realization dawned on him. His heartbeat quickened when she whispered softly. Her fingers brushed against his chest, breaking the tension between them. Arya clutched his shirt, overwhelmed by the pounding in her chest. Her breath grew shallow as emotion swelled. She leaned closer, teasing him with a knowing smile. Confused and nervous, he froze, unsure how to respond. He let out a nervous chuckle, brushing off her sudden change with a light-hearted comment. Turning serious, he pointed toward the looming figure, reminding her they still faced a very real threat. Arya, still holding on, challenged his view. Her question pierced through the moment, demanding something deeper. Softly, she pleaded for an answer, her expression filled with vulnerability he hadn't seen before. But the monster's shadow grew larger. He pulled her close, frustration mounting. Timing couldn't have been worse. He watched her quietly as she cast a protective barrier. Despite her strength, she still doubted herself. In his eyes, Arya was elegant, kind, and the most gifted magic user in his class. That truth had never changed. With a steady voice, he reminded her that every girl had their own unique charm, Claudia, Alice, and Arya included. No comparison was needed. He shared a simple analogy: flowers bloom in many forms. Roses, sunflowers, peonies, all different, yet all beautiful. So were people. His speech lingered in her thoughts. Though long-winded, it reached her heart. His awkwardness brought a small smile to her face. She giggled softly, calling out his awkwardness as part of his charm, catching him off guard. Confidence replaced hesitation. Straightening her posture, Arya thanked him, embracing her own identity without imitating others. Washio silently observed her change, a subtle smile forming as he acknowledged the shift in her presence. Though the monster still raged outside, their exchange continued as usual, calm amid the noise and crashing blows. A realization struck him like lightning, something so obvious he should have recognized it earlier. Without hesitation, his student swept him off the ground, lifting him effortlessly with her many limbs. Instead of casting spells repeatedly, she relied on her incredible agility. Covering ground and managing enemies with mobility proved far more practical. Cradled in her arms, he struggled to keep a straight face. The absurdity of a teacher being carried like a princess by a student left him flustered. Then she looked down with a warm, confident smile. His heart skipped. Whatever discomfort lingered faded as his eyes met hers, unable to resist the growing fondness between them. Speed carried them through the halls. Yet the teacher's thoughts drifted to romance, baffling even himself. They arrived before an imposing door etched with ancient symbols. She examined it closely, sensing resistance beyond. He stepped forward with confidence, raised his hand, and declared a phrase from old stories. Nothing happened until it did. The door groaned open, surprising both of them. Confusion spread across their faces as they tried to make sense of what worked. From the chamber beyond, a blinding light burst forth. They stood frozen at the entrance, unsure of what awaited. As the blinding glow filled the chamber, he stared ahead, confused, yet drawn to its brilliance. His hand reached out instinctively. A faint pulse of magic responded, wrapping around his fingers with gentle warmth. Before he could process the sensation, a voice snapped through the air, startling him into a cold sweat. A mysterious woman appeared, her serpent companion coiled around her. She called herself a guardian of magic. Frustrated, she scolded him for acting without permission, and turned away, visibly flustered by the situation. The serpent chastised the girl relentlessly. Trembling under pressure, she tried to gather courage through her tears. She clenched her fists. Their laughter stung, fueling her resolve. The serpent barked louder, enraged by their reactions. At last, she steadied herself and faced the light. Her eyes gleamed with sudden conviction. She was ready. A burst of magic triggered the start of something dangerous. He watched in disbelief as his companion stiffened. Shock spread across his face as her fingers turned pale and rigid. Fear gripped him. She was turning to stone. The man demanded an explanation, staring at Arya's motionless form. The serpent calmly stated she was merely petrified. Standing before the glowing pedestal, the girl revealed the conditions of a deal: magic in exchange for a price. He asked what that price would be. Her voice remained firm. There was only one thing he had to lose. The cost was Arya's feelings. His breath caught, faced with a choice. He stood frozen between power and someone's unspoken heart. The man stood frozen as Arya's expression softened. Her words implied something deeper, feelings directed at him. He forced a laugh, waving off the implication. There was no way, he reasoned, that someone like her could hold affection for him. Another girl approached, warning him of a lingering spell. If emotions were returned, consequences might follow. Doubt crept in. She insisted she'd return to normal once the spell ended, but uncertainty remained. If the magic held darker risks, could he really take that chance with her life? From behind, a quiet voice called to him. Emotion cracked through as she hesitated, ready to speak her truth. A strange voice interrupted, speaking boldly about love. Its obsession with sweet, youthful emotions made the man uneasy. Another girl joined in with her own twisted perspective. She spoke of taboo desires and guilty pleasures. Still unwilling to accept the situation, he forced a smile. He laughed it off, insisting love was just a harmless fantasy. He tried to justify everything with reason. Girls often admired older men, he thought. It's just a passing phase. He convinced himself that it was all common, even expected in youth-driven stories. But pressure mounted. He was asked directly what did he truly feel. Another girl dismissed Arya's emotions as immaturity. He convinced himself that Arya's feelings were nothing more than fleeting affection. A deal was struck. In exchange for playing along with the emotions of youth, he would receive magic and a way out. His eyes narrowed in doubt. The question lingered, was this truly the right path? Was he really okay with it? Meanwhile, the world outside his dilemma moved forward. A formal presentation concluded, showcasing advancements in magical research. Attendees praised the results. A 30% improvement in fireball, spell range stunned even seasoned mages. Despite the excitement, the old man remained distant, his heart still caught between duty and something deeper. Nervously stepping on stage, Washio faced the crowd's skepticism. His faction, recently formed and low-ranked, was already dismissed by others. Outside, his students had prepared a large summoning array. The magic circle was engineered not only to attract dark energy, but also to seal it. Standing at the center, Washio activated their magic. Lightning surged around him as a massive figure emerged. Explosions tore across the sky. Fiery meteors descended from above, drawing gasps from the crowd. No one expected such overwhelming force. Suddenly, a dragon-like creature appeared amidst the chaos. It declared vengeance, marking the return of an ancient threat. Dark energy surged as the dragon unleashed its power. Magic erupted across the sky, distorting space itself. One of the meteors struck true, slamming into the creature's side. Its pained scream echoed across the field. In the aftermath, silence returned. Washio's second attempt appeared to fail. The crowd began to murmur in confusion. With renewed focus, Washio shouted the incantation again. Lightning flashed, and magic circles lit up the arena violently. In the end, the dragon was destroyed instantly by a mysterious magical strike. The records would only mention an invisible hero as the one responsible. Washio stood awkwardly as murmurs filled the hall, while others criticized his rank. A rank elf boasted of his superiority. The atmosphere turned dismissive, though some still acknowledged the elaborate magic circle's brilliance. Despite the embarrassment, his students remained supportive. They defended his efforts, calling his magic impressive and brushing off the mishap. Later, one student approached with a strange confession. She couldn't recall anything that occurred during the trial. Another student joined in, surprised that even Washio had no memory of the event. Elsewhere, the snake girl observed quietly. She questioned if he truly lost control and wondered if the phrase meteor swarm had been uttered intentionally. Washio made his choice. He couldn't justify sacrificing someone's feelings for magical gain. His decision to walk away from power surprised them. He valued her emotions more than the spell. Though the magic was strong, trust mattered more. The observers watched silently, knowing he'd chosen the harder path. A grand buffet party brought various factions together under the glow of chandeliers and formal attire. While some enjoyed the food, others criticized the lack of effort from certain groups. One student, unbothered, admitted he came only for the cuisine, proudly showing off his plate of meat. Compliments circulated as a rank individual strolled in with elegance. Their appearance and calm composure quickly drew admiration from onlookers. Anticipation filled the room as whispers spread about wanting to see Arya and Claudia's dresses. Suddenly, two stunning women entered, Arya in a flowing dress and Claudia in a sleek outfit. Gasps and stunned expressions followed their confident arrival. Claudia and her companion stood confidently, captivating the crowd with elegance and charm. As the food was served, a young man prepared to take a bite, only to freeze when a silent, imposing elf appeared before him, watching his behavior closely. Claudia tasted the food and immediately praised its flavor with delight. However, her enthusiastic eating caused some sauce to spill. Trying to handle the situation playfully, she asked her teacher for help wiping the mess. Embarrassed by her forwardness, he hesitated, flustered by the attention and awkward moment unfolding. Before he could react further, another student passionately complimented Claudia's appearance. His elaborate praise left her stunned. As the event continued, Claudia remained close to Frederick, drawing curious glances. Alice approached with a perfectly arranged meal, presenting it formally to her teacher. Carrying his plate awkwardly, Washio Sensei felt the sharp stares of jealous onlookers. Suddenly, one of the girls gently grabbed his hand, her expression playful. She hinted that something was different about her and asked him to notice the change. Before he could answer, Alice bluntly revealed the difference. Her bust had shrunk by 10 centimeters. The room froze for a second, while Sensei struggled to respond to the absurdly honest observation. Claudia stepped forward confidently, admitting she had worn padding before, but now chose to be authentic. Alice, standing nearby, questioned whether her master preferred busty women and offered to change herself accordingly. Onlookers began to murmur, clearly uncomfortable with the awkward direction of the conversation. At a distance, one man quietly observed the tension. Surrounded by formality and noise, he sighed and admitted discomfort in such extravagant gatherings. From the balcony above, he watched the lively group interacting below. Their elegant appearances contrasted with his isolated position, unnoticed among the crowd. Just then, someone called him out. The voice pierced the atmosphere and reminded him of his out-of-place presence. A mysterious girl emerged quietly, facing judgmental remarks about her appearance. Choosing to avoid the crowd, she explained her preference for staying distant. One observer related, admitting that noisy environments caused discomfort and anxiety. While others engaged in conversation about automaton performance, the man nearby sensed tension. The girl revealed her worries to Washio, speaking of her role as a guardian and the dangers of manipulation. As she finished speaking, something went wrong. Her powers activated by accident, and she realized too late she had turned someone to stone again, sending Washio into stunned silence. Alice and the others arrived just as Washio was recovering from petrification. Confused stares landed on the revealingly dressed woman beside him. Claudia rushed in, panicked by someone chasing her. Upon noticing a snake nearby, she immediately backed off, clearly uncomfortable around reptiles. From the side, a few observers commented on how naturally Washio interacted with the monster girls. One elf watched intently, noting Washio's continued commitment to teaching the monster girl class. Suddenly, a mysterious young man offered his assistance. With a glass in hand and a smirk, he stepped forward, clearly interested in the situation unfolding. After months of renovation, the infamous ghost tower had transformed into the brand new Washio dormitory. Despite the grand unveiling, Washio remained uneasy. Memories of the tower's eerie past unsettled him, prompting concern about lingering spirits. They stepped inside to find a breathtaking interior. Clean walls and elegant fixtures replaced the previous decay. Washio marveled at the massive bath area, a feature clearly designed with comfort in mind. A student fondly recalled the days they used to bathe together, wishing to relive that warmth. As she offered to wash his back and coaxed him toward the bath, Washio's hesitation grew. Just as Claudia leaned in with her offer, the maid stepped forward firmly and intervened. To shift the mood, another girl suggested they start unpacking and check out their rooms. Meanwhile, Washio nervously tried to keep the peace between the two girls pressing against him. Inside a spacious room, the same girl proposed they share it, just the two of them. Her playful suggestion, however, met immediate rejection from Washio. Without hesitation, the maid declared her own arrangement. She announced that Washio would be staying with her in the basement. When questioned, she explained it would improve magical supply efficiency. Her grip tightened until Claudia cried out in discomfort. With room assignments underway, the teacher assumed he'd have a single room until a new girl appeared. Molly Blime, a cheerful student, was suddenly introduced to meet the required count for their faction. The surprise introduction left some in shock, but Molly explained she'd been there all along, just unnoticed. Having settled the formalities, the girls took charge. Trailing behind, one of the girls paused on the staircase, quietly observing. When questioned, she blurted out her jealousy over Alice. Her friend laughed it off, reminding her that Alice was merely an automaton, nothing more than a tool for support. While others dismissed Alice as harmless, one girl pointed out her reproductive functions, raising a very different concern. Remaining composed, another girl reminded everyone of her long-standing bond with Washio. Her thoughts shifted to greater threats. She identified their true rivals as the former students, powerful beings who had likely evolved into something more formidable. Strategic thinking took the forefront. One girl challenged her rival to develop methods beyond flirting if they hoped to compete, hinting at inevitable encounters at the academy. Not backing down, the girl asserted that charm was still a valid tactic. Her tone, though light, carried pride and defiance as she walked away without turning back. With a confident smirk, Arya made her declaration. Regardless of the competition, she was determined to win Washio's heart no matter what. Claudia, stunned by Arya's boldness, hesitated at the doorway. Her voice wavered as she called out. But Arya had already moved on. Inside the room, Claudia commented on the extravagant bed. Arya dismissed the concern, claiming such luxury was the norm in her household. Elsewhere, Molly glanced around thoughtfully. Sharing a room with a monster girl sparked uncertainty. Far from the dormitory, a massive tail dragged through a busy street, startling the townspeople. Someone shouted in protest, overwhelmed by the unexpected chaos caused by the unseen beast's arrival. At a local tavern, two men cornered a waitress with unwelcome advances, ignoring her clear discomfort. A nearby guest stepped in to warn them, but the mood had already soured. A student calmly approached and responded with unexpected force. She unleashed a burst of fire, singeing the air and shocking everyone present. Bystanders backed away in fear. Whispers spread quickly as someone shouted that she must be a monster after witnessing her fiery display. Draco, unfazed, corrected them confidently. As a proud monster girl from Inium Academy's Washio class, she made her identity clear. A loud scream shattered the morning silence as a monster girl enthusiastically jumped on the bed. Still half asleep, Washio opened his eyes to find her cheerfully greeting him while announcing that breakfast and his outfit were ready. Moments later, Washio left his room and exchanged sleepy greetings with another teacher. Inside the staff room, Washio sat at the table, while colleagues exchanged knowing glances. One remarked in disbelief that Washio had arrived on time. The elf gave a stern warning, advising caution in dealings with monster girls to avoid inappropriate misunderstandings. Despite the lecture, Washio responded with a shrug, admitting his rank had improved, but ignoring the deeper criticism. Washio responded politely to his colleague's warning, offering a smile and thanking him for the concern. Confusion filled his thoughts as he sat in stunned silence. The idea that Rimnoa would voluntarily give advice was so surreal, he imagined dragons falling from the sky. Before he could recover, Julius approached with a friendly smile, asking for a moment of his time. Washio appeared puzzled. He hadn't heard any such message and suspected Rimnoa had forgotten to pass it along. Then, the new student stepped in. She was tall, confident, and clearly not human. Her appearance stirred memories. Washio didn't expect to resurface. Draco stared daggers at Washio, her eyes filled with visible frustration. He froze, unsure how to respond under her intense glare. Julius encouraged him to greet her. Washio hesitated, recognizing her face and name. The girl before him was none other than Draco, the very monster girl who once helped him. A memory surfaced. Draco, once a sleepy lizard-like creature, had now taken human form. Julius explained that he had already cleared things with the principal. As Julius departed with a grin, he left Washio in awkward silence beside Draco. Now faced with the task of teaching a former savior, Washio couldn't hide his nervous smile. Washio smiled warmly at Draco, expressing genuine happiness at seeing her again. Her silent stare caught him off guard. Confused by the lack of response, he nervously scratched his cheek, unsure what he said wrong. With a sharp click of her tongue, Draco turned away. Washio, now flustered, awkwardly asked if she preferred to be called something else. Trying to brush off the awkwardness, he laughed it off, blaming the clinginess of high school girls for the strained atmosphere. As they entered the classroom, Draco was immediately embraced by a cheerful girl. The sudden hug startled her, but it signaled that familiar faces from the past were truly nearby. Draco reacted sharply, baring her fangs and scolding Taco for clinging too much. Her patience had run thin. Taco remained unfazed, commenting on Draco's growth while teasing her about her height and figure. Draco struggled to respond. Although annoyed, Draco gradually softened. Their reunion felt oddly comforting. Side by side, they agreed to face school life together. Elsewhere, Julius quietly watched with a satisfied smile. Everything seemed to be falling into place just as he had expected. The teacher introduced the concept of the monster food chain, emphasizing dragons as the apex predators. The classroom. Students admired dragons, calling them romantic and fascinating. The idea of even dangerous creatures like chimeras falling prey to dragons thrilled them. One student whispered to his classmate, wondering if Draco, the silent girl with dragon-like features, ate chimeras too. Her fierce appearance made that thought genuinely unnerving, though she remained unbothered, resting her head on the desk. Suddenly she stirred. Without warning, she let out a massive yawn, exhaling a stream of fire into the air. Still smoldering, Draco looked toward the teacher. She interrupted his lecture with a blunt question about monsters. Draco's casual question shocked the entire class. Confused stares and muttered disbelief spread across the room. Trying to stay composed, the teacher began explaining from the beginning. He described monsters as creatures that appeared unexpectedly a century ago. Their emergence, known as the Great Dark Night, changed the world forever. He went on to say that these beings, despite their lower intelligence, formed societies and hierarchies. As he continued, the teacher mentioned the Demon King, a figure of immense power among monsters. Draco listened with a slightly more thoughtful expression, The concept of suddenly appearing creatures seemed to make more sense to her now, though she still looked a bit unconvinced. A classmate raised concern about calling monsters unintelligent, clearly uncomfortable with the teacher's generalization. Draco stood. Her wings flared and eyes sharpened as she towered over the teacher. Intensity filled the air instantly. Without speaking further, her expression grew more serious. Flames formed in her mouth, signaling her rising irritation. Sweat ran down the teacher's face as he stammered, trying to respond. His confident tone disappeared completely. At last, Draco smirked, satisfied with the result. Her expression softened, now calm after asserting her stance. The teacher looked exhausted, realizing Draco had been teasing him. Her relaxed smile contrasted sharply with his frazzled expression. From the upper rows, students whispered among themselves. They felt the dragon's overwhelming presence, and were awed by the sheer size of her wings. Some students appeared frightened, sweat forming on their faces. The teacher decided to end the lesson early, sensing the tension in the room. Draco playfully stuck out her tongue, mocking the teacher gently. Her demeanor shifted from fierce to mischievous in an instant. As students gathered their belongings, the teacher reminded them of her unique nature. Draco remained seated, calm but slightly smug, leaving an impression that would linger in the classroom. A student rushed to the nurse's office, alarmed by the aftermath of alchemy class. Concern filled her face. Inside, the teacher and nurse assessed the situation. A tentacle had been severed, but it would regenerate quickly, leaving the student physically unharmed. The teacher remained calm while explaining that she should apologize to her classmates. He encouraged responsibility without escalating the situation. The student's expression grew solemn. She feared potential consequences and considered the possibility of expulsion, realizing the seriousness of the incident. The nurse and teacher escorted her out. She followed quietly, reflecting on her actions, while the teacher maintained a composed presence, guiding her through the aftermath. Draco accepted the document, her expression serious. The teacher observed quietly, signaling that the next phase of their plan would begin. After an accident during alchemy class, tension spreads through the room as consequences loom heavily. Relief begins to surface when the decision becomes clear. The fear of punishment fades, and Claudia's rigid posture loosens slightly, though uncertainty still lingers behind her eyes, as attention shifts toward her condition. Concern replaces discipline as the teacher focuses on Claudia's well-being. Her injury is acknowledged, and responsibility gives way to care. With authority settled, instructions are given and accepted without resistance. Claudia nods, understanding her obligations, while the surrounding atmosphere grows quieter. Later, a private moment follows. Observing her alone, the teacher notices subtle changes in her expression and behavior. Claudia's earlier behavior becomes a topic of concern as her classmates recount the incident. Observers recall her working steadily at first, showing only minor mistakes before her focus unexpectedly slipped. Questions linger about her true condition, despite supportive intentions. Night falls over the academy while Washio faces a tense summons. Authority figures gather, their stern expressions hinting that the incident has grown far more serious than he expected. Responsibility is reviewed as instructors discuss their roles. Washio braces himself, sensing escalation just before an agitated visitor bursts inside demanding answers. Accusations erupt immediately as Claudia's father confronts him, convinced his daughter suffered severe harm under Washio's supervision. Chaos fills the room as emotions rise, and Washio struggles to calm the furious parent demanding accountability. Responsibility shifts when the alchemy instructor steps forward, bowing deeply to accept blame for the incident. Tension then redirects toward a different issue as several parents point out a deeper conflict involving Claudia. Their complaints widen the scope of the discussion, placing Washio at the center once more. A composed PTA president enters, requesting the principal's attention. Her firm expression signals that a decisive judgment is approaching. Before anyone can respond, she demands Washio's dismissal, leaving him frozen as the room falls into uneasy stillness. A sudden document shifts the atmosphere as the principal examines the accusations written inside. Meanwhile, Claudia demonstrates her rapid recovery, surprising nearby students with her restored limbs. Her casual attitude eases some concerns. Although whispered comments reveal curiosity about her unique abilities, attention in the hall gradually moves toward Claudia and her friends. Their uneasy expressions show that the earlier rumors have already spread far beyond the classroom. Confrontation begins when a student approaches her directly, questioning her involvement in the explosion. Rumors intensify when another student brings up Washio's past, claiming he once caused major destruction. Claudia stands frozen, caught between disbelief. Rumors intensify as a student mocks Claudia's group, turning suspicion toward anyone connected to Washio. Inside the meeting hall, the situation grows heavier. Teachers and parents discuss the anonymous letter, each claim painting Washio as a dangerous figure from the past. His silence only deepens their doubts. Before decisions are finalized, a sudden commotion erupts outside. Shouts echo through the corridor as the group rushes toward the source. A massive rupture tears through the hall, startling everyone. A terrifying creature emerges from the chaos, leaving the once confident student trembling. Amid the destruction, Arya steps forward with a shadowed expression. Her anger surfaces, driven by painful memories. Claudia's expression grows distant as Arya loses control, alarming their friend who desperately tries to stop them both. Unease spreads through the crowd while students whisper fears about the monster's reactions and their connection to Washio. The PTA president decides the situation has escalated too far, insisting that targeting only Washio will not resolve anything. Pressure intensifies once demands for punishment reach the administration, placing Claudia, Arya, and their homeroom teacher under heavy scrutiny. The academy's head placed Washio and the two monster girls under strict house arrest, forbidding them from leaving the dormitory while an investigation proceeded. Inside the quiet dorm lounge, Washio sat across from one of the girls. The room's stillness underscored the tension between them. Meanwhile, rumors spread like wildfire. Students gossiped openly about Washio's past, calling him unstable and dangerous. Confined to their rooms, the monster girls watched the world through their windows. Washio, holding a flower, remained composed despite the growing suspicion outside. Elsewhere, a man plotting behind the scenes awaited the investigation's outcome. Confident, he planned to remove Washio and elevate Rimnoa as the new homeroom teacher. A smug question cut through the air as the black-haired man challenged his colleague's hesitation with a smile. Calmly, the elf clarified his position. He had only requested a teacher change, not a witch hunt. Unrest wasn't his intention. Rather than respond in kind, he reminded the man of their roles. Teachers must act responsibly, never exploiting students for personal gain. Frustration flared. The black-haired man lashed out, blaming the elf for hypocrisy. His disdain for elves boiled to the surface. Elsewhere, students eagerly fueled the scandal. Rumors spread unchecked, and Washio's reputation crumbled. Watching silently, Dora was pulled into the scheme. Dora remained silent, her sharp gaze narrowing in frustration. The lack of response only deepened the tension. Mockingly, the man accused her silence of fueling negative perceptions. Without waiting, he dismissed her as ill-mannered. Leaning in, he questioned her feelings. Was it hatred toward Washio or resentment for the monster girls? With a smug smile, he changed the topic entirely. Instead of answers, he posed a twisted philosophical question about emotions. He declared despair as the most beautiful feeling, glorifying the moment people give up hope. Dora, unimpressed, challenged the absurdity of his claims. Without waiting for a reply, the man turned away with disdain. To him, her silence confirmed ignorance. Outside, the school tower stood still under the calm sky, an eerie contrast to the storm within. In the dorm, a quiet maid entered the room carrying a warm drink. Washio sat slumped, his energy drained. Her voice remained gentle as she explained the calming effects of tryptophan in milk and honey. He barely reacted. Irritation crept into her tone. She scolded his withdrawn behavior and encouraged him to speak openly. Her offer was simple: whatever troubled him, she'd fix it. Frustration burst from the maid as she raised her voice, urging Washio to say something at last. Sitting quietly, she softened her tone and asked if he'd ever share his past with her. His reply came gently, maybe someday. Accepting his answer, she offered a quiet good night before leaving the room, closing the door behind her. Left alone, Washio stared at the ceiling, his thoughts too heavy to voice. His body weighed down by fatigue. In the darkness, his eyes betrayed deep weariness. Unspoken memories lingered, pulling him into a silence no one could reach. A blinding light enveloped the space as the summoning ritual succeeded. Washio, disoriented, appeared in a world unknown. Confused and overwhelmed, he was greeted by cloaked figures and a beautiful woman who addressed him as a legendary hero. Still stunned, he introduced himself awkwardly. The unfamiliar surroundings and attention only deepened his disbelief. The woman smiled with fascination, praising his name and professing love at first sight. Her words only raised more questions. With unwavering seriousness, she commanded him to protect the kingdom from monsters and lead them to victory. Swords and claws surrounded him as the gravity of his new role became clear. Shock overtook Washio as the weight of the demand settled in. Facing monsters was never part of his plan. Concerned whispers filled the room as the girls speculated about Washio. Sensei's absence driven by curiosity and concern. One of the students approached Arya-sama, asking to know more about their teacher's past. Arya began recounting the tale. Long ago, Washio, sensei was feared and respected as the Golden Eagle, a powerful mage summoned from another world. But the truth wasn't so simple. Back then, he was nothing more than a salaryman, an ordinary office worker with no combat experience, thrown into a world of danger without warning. Summoned during a desperate time, he was expected to turn the tide of battle, as he protested, begging to return home. Despite Washio's protests, the kingdom placed high expectations on him. He was ordered to learn magic quickly and lead battles against monsters reclaiming lost territory. Escorted past a roaring beast in a cage, he heard their final words of encouragement. From outside, the castle stood proud. But within, the summoned man sat at its heart, surrounded by uncertainty and pressure. Alone in his room, Washio lay in disbelief. Everything felt surreal. A typical office worker now faced monsters and war. It wasn't a dream, this world was real, though shaken. He clenched his fist with resolve. Complaining wouldn't change anything. That evening, a cheerful visitor appeared at Washio's door, offering tea with a bright smile. Introducing himself as Skara, a second-class soldier, the newcomer declared he would now assist Washio full-time. Eager to be useful, Skara listed tasks from massages to finding good food, surprising Washio with his enthusiasm. With ears perked, Skara eagerly waited for a grand command. Washio remained unsure how to respond. Choosing a simple request, Washio asked for a restaurant recommendation. Skara lit up, suggesting they leave immediately. Washio, tired, hesitated, but Skara's persistence made the idea harder to refuse. After a long day, Skara gave Washio a shoulder massage while reminding him about tomorrow's city operation. Relaxing on the couch, Washio promised not to mess up. Skara warned him not to be late again. As tension set in, Washio admitted his fear. Facing battle wasn't easy, and he questioned how Skara managed it. Refusing to back down, Skara insisted he'd protect Washio no matter what. His confidence made Washio smile. With a sincere expression, Skara suggested dropping formalities. Despite their roles, he now considered Washio a friend. Washio admitted he appreciated Skara's kindness, and thought it would be nice if they became friends. Overjoyed by the suggestion, Skara eagerly asked to call him Washio-san, hoping they'd bond beyond missions. The atmosphere lightened as they planned to eat together after the operation, though Washio jokingly voiced concern. As night fell, Skara questioned Washio's slang. Their carefree exchange echoed, unaware that battle awaited with sunrise. The next day, chaos erupted. Skara raised his shield while Washio unleashed powerful magic, facing danger head. After a fierce clash, Skara stood among allies wounded, yet proud. Then, everything shattered like glass. A sudden vision overwhelmed Washio. His eyes widened in terror as reality twisted before him. Elsewhere, Skara awoke struggling for breath, connected to a machine. Pain and confusion clouded his expression. Gripping the blanket, he whispered a vow. In Washio's place, he would protect everyone, especially the monsters. Far away, another figure held a mysterious girl close. Her expression was solemn, and his was unreadable. The girl sat quietly until a sudden order broke the silence. Washio. Sensei was to be summoned. Without hesitation, the message was passed to notify him of the urgent matter. Behind the large double doors, a summons from the principal awaited. Authority and tension loomed from within the room. Inside the chamber, an inquiry had begun. Washio once served in the kingdom's elite magic corps. Fragments of memory surfaced. A small octopus-like creature, frightened and restrained. The faces of those affected haunted Washio as images from the experiment flashed in his mind. Without emotion, he confirmed everything. There was no hesitation. He declared the information was accurate, no mistake at all. Shock rippled through the panel as members expressed disgust. One called the act horrifying, while another noted the accusation mirrored the official report word. 4. Word. Outrage escalated rapidly. A sharp voice demanded immediate dismissal, branding Washio a disgrace to educators. Far away, someone sat quietly sipping tea. Washio's clenched fist revealed the pressure mounting behind his silence. Concern grew elsewhere. One student, visibly uneasy, voiced her worry for Washio's fate. Doubt, however, lingered. Her friend seemed indifferent, calling her reaction excessive. Though she asked if Dorako shared her concern, the response remained emotionally detached. Dorako remained indifferent. Her expression didn't waver as she declared she had no concern for what happened to Washio. Her classmate responded with disbelief. The situation, after all, involved their mentor, someone who once saved their lives. Suddenly, Dorako burst into laughter. The intensity of her reaction contrasted sharply with her earlier coldness. Lounging back in her chair, she mocked the seriousness of the situation. Yet, her teasing tone felt layered with deeper frustration. Abruptly standing, she stepped forward, eyes burning with emotion. Confronting her peer, she revealed the truth. Washio's pain came from their very existence. Washio appeared silently at the door, his presence halting the heated exchange between the two girls. Taking advantage of the timing, Dorako pressed the issue. She urged her friend to confront him directly. Washio's expression remained unreadable. He looked exhausted as the student hesitantly called out to him, seeking clarity. In that moment, his mind drifted. Images of cheerful, once experimented monster creatures resurfaced, mixing with heavy emotion. A single, cold statement followed. Without hesitation, he admitted it. Everything happening was, in his view, their fault. Washio expressed regret. He blamed the students for dragging his hidden past into the open despite his efforts to remain unnoticed. Standing behind them, Dorako repeated his words with eerie calm. He should never have saved them in the first place. Overwhelmed, the girl trembled. Tears welled up as she tried to process the cruel shift in his tone. From behind, Dorako reaffirmed the harsh reality. Her words were blunt now. There was no room left for misunderstanding. Without waiting for a reply, Washio turned to leave. He offered no further explanation, stating they could talk later. News of Washio's dismissal spread quickly. Students gathered near the building, whispering about his fate and possible reasons. Rumors took over. Some accused him of brainwashing. Others speculated the monster girls would now behave. Few showed sympathy. Outside the school gates, Washio carried his belongings. An elf approached, acknowledging his departure with unexpected civility. Breaking the silence, the elf questioned him directly. He asked if the allegations about brainwashing the monster girls were true. Washio didn't deny it, he confirmed everything. The elf paused, admitting past ridicule, yet now, he simply accepted the truth. The elf turned away, voice cold. Behind him, Washio walked alone, unbothered by the harsh farewell left unspoken. Morning light filtered through the windows as the classroom sat in silence. Students quietly awaited instruction. One girl avoided eye contact, visibly tense. The teacher, a composed elf with a stern gaze, addressed the class and began homeroom without delay. Standing firm at the front, he delivered a series of announcements. The Washio faction was disbanded. Reactions varied, but unease spread. The two girls remained quiet, processing the shift in power. As the elf turned to leave, he reminded them to head to their next class, and not to sulk. Left alone in the now empty classroom, the teacher released a long sigh. Even he felt the weight of change. A fellow teacher approached Ramoa with a smirk, teasing him about his student's behavior. Without warning, the man presented a potion. Its label made Ramoa tense, designed to tame monsters. It suggested a shortcut he didn't want. Ramoa studied the bottle in silence. He refused the offer, firmly stating his belief in words, not potions. As Ramoa walked away, the other man watched with a casual smile. He found Elve's pride troublesome, but amusing nonetheless. Back to his duties, Julius was handed the classroom logbook. With ease, he accepted a stack of graded homework to return. A narrow stone staircase spiraled downward. Beside it, bags and luggage stood packed, signaling a sudden departure. Inside, students gathered to sort through abandoned belongings, their time under Washio. Sensei's guidance had passed swiftly. Memories clung to the room. As they debated what to discard, opinions clashed. Some pleaded to preserve the research, others insisted there was no reason to keep anything. Suddenly, someone burst in cheerfully, interrupting the somber mood. She offered help, calling one of the girls her honey bunny. Her tone clashed with the atmosphere, while others watched in confusion. Frederick declared he'd send the items to Washio. His words made one student uneasy. Frederick hesitated. Though he wished to see Washio again, he knew reaching out might burden him further. Claudia smiled gently, blaming herself for the recent chaos. Rather than dwell on guilt, she asked for help moving her belongings. Determined, Frederick stepped forward. He reminded Claudia that she still believed in Washio and insisted they uncover the truth together. Doubt lingered among the others. One questioned his motivation, unsure what he stood to gain from the pursuit. With a soft smile, Frederick revealed his reason. All he wanted in return was to see their smiles again. Frederick's sincere words were met with teasing. Some called him cheesy. Others compared him to a romance lead. Yet his kindness stirred emotion in at least one listener. Frustration broke through as another student raised her voice. She couldn't accept the rumors and was eager to find the truth. Another girl spoke up. Despite past pain, she couldn't ignore her lingering doubts and wanted answers. The group gathered, with agreement in the air. Claudia simply responded with a firm understood, ready to take action. They examined a mysterious accusation letter. The sender remained anonymous, but its impact was real. Suspicions began to rise. One student pointed to Ramoa sensei as a potential culprit, though the accusation stirred tension among the group. Another possibility emerged: Julius sensei. His habit of using dots at sentence ends matched the letter's formatting, drawing fresh attention. Despite the clue, doubt lingered. Someone reminded them that the writer might not even be a teacher. A sharp-nosed snake girl contributed next. She smelled faint traces of chemicals on the letter, strengthening the theory that Julius, a pharmacology teacher, might be involved. Her testimony was met with skepticism. Frederick joked about snake stereotypes, while she insisted she wasn't two-faced, despite her appearance. The group arrived at Julius Sensei's private room, tension rising as suspicions hovered unspoken among them. Inside, the room was disorganized. Papers, plants, and clutter filled the space, hinting that something had gone terribly wrong. Suspicious of Julius's involvement, the girl planned to infiltrate his room and gather evidence. After sneaking inside, she joined her friends in the kitchen. One of them reminded her to stay quiet, while another apologized for making noise. Nervously, she crept down the hallway. Her eyes scanned for Julius's private quarters, while her friend urged her to hurry. The group entered the room together. One girl admitted it was her first time breaking the rules, while the others hesitantly agreed to help despite their discomfort. Once inside, she took the lead and searched near the window. Her snake-like companion remained alert, watching for any movement. Inside the room, the group discovered an old typewriter sitting on the desk. One of them confirmed it matched the format and ink used in the accusation letter. To validate their suspicion, Frederick was asked to present the original letter. A close inspection revealed a unique font from the typewriter. Everyone agreed it was identical to the one used in the letter, leaving little room for doubt. While the trash yielded no draft, a wax seal identical to the one on the letter was found. Just as they were about to stop, a document caught her eye. It wasn't a draft but a background report on Washio-sensei. The truth began to surface. One document revealed the facility wasn't a monster shelter, but a cruel experimentation lab overcome with emotion. The girl teared up. The truth about Washio's actions, once buried by lies, finally began to shine through. While the group prepared to leave, unease crept in. One of them voiced concern everything felt a bit too neat, as if someone wanted the evidence to be found. A warning reached them just in time. Julius had returned. Panic set in, and their escape window rapidly shrank as footsteps echoed down the hallway. Julius arrived with a calm smile. When questioned by a student, he dismissed it casually, unaware that his private room had just been searched. Guilt overwhelmed the girl who failed to stall Julius. Hiding in fear, she apologized repeatedly, devastated that her distraction didn't buy enough time. Julius entered his room quietly, closing the door behind him. He moved slowly, each step deliberate, fully aware that someone had been here, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Julius passed by the very spot where two students hid beneath the desk. Just as tension peaked, one girl whispered that he was approaching. Hearts raced. Julius stood before the typewriter, his gaze narrowed, noticing something off. As his hand reached for it, the group's fate hung in a breathless moment. After Julius left the room, the group let out a collective sigh of relief. Their plan had barely worked. While scanning the floor, one of them noticed something unusual. A hidden space beneath the boards revealed itself, hinting at even more secrets buried in Julius's room. Without hesitation, they decided to leave. One girl urged Claudia to hurry, while another declared their intent to report everything to the principal. Just as they approached the door, Julius returned. His sudden appearance froze everyone in place. Tension spiked instantly as their eyes met his. To their surprise, he didn't act violently. Instead, he calmly addressed them, acknowledging their cleverness. Julius locked the door behind him, his words revealing he had anticipated everything. Holding a key, he smirked confidently. His tone dripped with mockery as he insulted their efforts, finding comfort in their perceived foolishness. The student stood firm despite his intimidation. One of them confronted him directly, accusing him of falsifying the report and sending the letter. Instead of responding, Julius turned to Claudia. To everyone's shock, she approached him willingly, documents in hand. Claudia's consciousness drifted as her body refused to respond. A man's words echoed distantly, his presence unsettling yet oddly gentle. Arya scanned the room, unsettled by the unnatural stillness. None of her classmates moved, frozen mid-motion. Alarmed, she called out, demanding answers. Suspicion took root as Arya studied their vacant eyes. They weren't merely still, they were mentally restrained, refusing to stay passive. Arya retrieved a hidden ring. With a swift motion, she activated its power. Energy surged around her, reacting to her will. Calmly, she knelt before the man, revealing her strategy. Magic alone failed against monsters, but she struck when they were still human. Faced with the enemy's smirk, she demanded answers. He offered none, only burned the investigation file in his hand. Frozen in disbelief, she stared at the rising flames. Important evidence vanished, consumed by fire. Her hands trembled, powerless to stop the damage already done. Observing her reaction with twisted amusement, he licked his finger, savoring the moment. Her despair hadn't reached the depths he craved. With eerie calm, he praised despair as a gift. To him it was more than emotion, it was a rare privilege. Fixated on her mind, he listed the many forms of despair like a scholar reciting theory. Her monster heritage only made her more fascinating to dissect. Leaning in, the man gripped Arya's face gently, savoring her fearful expression. His voice demanded deeper despair. Without warning, he reached for a small device hidden beneath his sleeve. A quick motion activated it, revealing its sharp mechanism. Arya stared at the strange tool now attached to her body. Panic rose as she struggled to comprehend its purpose. A calm smile crossed his lips as he adjusted the device. His words offered false reassurance while he prepared for pain. Suddenly, Claudia rushed in. Her sharp voice cut through the tension. Eyes narrowed. She stood firm between him and Arya. Arya's body stiffened as a strange sensation clouded her mind once more. Her limbs grew heavier, resisting movement. Close behind, the man whispered with eerie calm, gently instructing her not to resist. His grip tightened. A long tail blocked the path forward as another girl stood paralyzed, helpless to intervene. The captor's control spread without resistance. At that moment, the door burst open. A new girl entered, eyes fixed on the scene with quiet fury. Holding a bat in one hand, she addressed the villain coldly. Her words carried no emotion, but her presence shifted the tension. A flicker of surprise broke through the man's smug expression. His grin faltered as he sensed a shift. Facing the new arrival, he played along. With a smirk, he agreed to meet later and stepped away. With a snap of his fingers, the spell broke. One by one, the students blinked in confusion as awareness returned. The classroom filled with murmurs as each student struggled to recall what had happened. Their minds remained foggy, unsure of the lost moments. Watching silently, Arya turned to Draco. Suspicion crept into her voice as she questioned the girl's involvement. A cold warning flared in her eyes, urging others to stay away from the unfolding danger. Claudia, however, pushed back defiantly. Her voice rang out, determined to expose the truth and clear Washio-sensei's name. Conviction sparked a new idea. With sudden clarity, her expression lit up as she prepared to take action. Without hesitation, Claudia dashed off. The others were left stunned, barely able to react to her impulsive decisions. Smiles softened the tension as her friends watched her run. Some rolled their eyes, others followed, resigned but supportive. Takoko laughed with her usual sharp grin, noting how Claudia's energy hadn't changed over the years. Her tone softened. With quiet resolve, she reminded Arya that this time, they had to be the ones to help Washio. Understanding dawned on Arya. A faint smile formed as she nodded, ready to stand beside her friend. Elsewhere, Washio acknowledged Alice's service with a gentle expression. Calm surrounded him, unaware of the storm his students faced. Alice insisted on assisting him further. Though Washio declined politely, she persisted, expressing her belief in emotional care through physical comfort. She reached out calmly, informing him of her functions. Startled, Washio quickly recoiled, overwhelmed by her unexpected offer. Washio diligently made the beds while Alice finished cleaning the rooms. Together, they reported to the inn's elderly manager, receiving a simple thank you for their efforts. Despite their hard work, the inn's location on an old, rarely used highway made new customers unlikely. Later, Washio greeted a well-dressed guest at the entrance. His smile was warm as he offered a towel. While walking upstairs, Washio brushed off compliments. Working at the inn felt natural to him. He reflected on the past. Teaching at the Magic Academy had been stressful and burdensome. Now Washio appreciated the chance to live simply and work at the inn. Alice denied being young once again, reacting to a light-hearted remark from the elderly manager. After a short exchange, the manager stepped away to handle kitchen duties, leaving Washio in charge of the front desk for the time being. Washio casually shared his dreams of running an inn. His joking tone made Alice uncomfortable. Clarifying his earlier comments, Washio explained that he admired the refined service style of people like Lady Claudia and Arya. Curiosity softened her expression as she asked if he ever regretted leaving the academy. Beneath her composed demeanor, she genuinely wanted to understand his decision, and perhaps what he was still holding on to. Washio tried to deny his feelings, but Alice quietly saw through his expression and unease. Eventually, he admitted regret. His past at the academy left behind complications, born from half-truths and missteps. While preparing food, he reflected that teaching had never truly suited him. Letting go of those responsibilities now brought relief. Alice questioned if that meant completely abandoning Lady Claudia and Arya. Washio acknowledged the pain he caused, realizing his decisions hurt the very people he wished to protect. With a forced smile, he convinced himself it was better not to get involved. Choosing distance, he believed it was the only way to let them live freely, without his shadow. Alice processed his decision in silence. Though not fully convinced, she chose to respect his resolve. Later, she found him lying sick in bed. Despite his apologies, she promised to remain beside him until the end. The next day began like any other. Washio stepped outside, energized, and ready to tackle his duties around the inn. Just as he started his tasks, a loud noise interrupted his thoughts. Confused, he turned toward the sudden commotion. Out of nowhere, a girl launched herself into him. The impact caught him off guard, crashing directly into his chest. Alice processed his decision in silence. Though not fully convinced, she chose to respect his resolve. Later, she found him lying sick in bed. Despite his apologies, she promised to remain beside him until the end. The next day began like any other. Washio stepped outside, energized and ready to tackle his duties around the inn. Just as he started his tasks, a loud noise interrupted his thoughts. Confused, he turned toward the sudden commotion. Out of nowhere, a girl launched herself into him. The impact caught him off guard, crashing directly into his chest. Claudia wrapped herself tightly around the young man, pressing him down as he struggled beneath her weight. A maid arrived with tea while he strained to endure the pressure. Sudden realization struck him when he learned his background records had been forged. Shock spread across his face as confusion overwhelmed his thoughts. She displayed a small vial, exposing the substance forced upon him. A dark-haired figure lingered behind her, intensifying his fear, and mental haze pain flared through his back as he attempted to move forward. Claudia reached out in alarm while he forced himself onward. Exhaustion overcame him, dropping him to the floor. Worry filled Claudia as she offered to carry him to the academy and remain beside him. Claudia lifted the injured man into her arms while the maid urged her to hold him properly. Despite the strain, she adjusted her grip and prepared to depart immediately. Engines roared as their vehicle accelerated at full power. The man's face tightened with fear while speed forced them toward their destination. Claudia shielded him midair as impact approached. Wind tore past them while the landscape blurred beneath their rapid descent. During the flight, discussion turned to a hidden objective involving monster girls. The man listened closely, troubled by unfamiliar terminology. Explanation followed about a force called the monstral factor. Its absorption triggered violent transformation, threatening reason and unleashing uncontrollable aggression. Claudia held him firmly while the risk of injection was questioned. Concern spread as they considered what would happen if the substance entered his body. Attention shifted to the authority overseeing the research facility. A composed silver-haired inspector stood beside a dark-haired superior, both connected to the kingdom's highest wizards. Realization dawned on the injured man as he linked the drug to Julius. Regret surfaced when he admitted he had ignored the signs. Claudia reacted in shock upon remembering the forbidden research. The truth emerged that he had sealed those memories himself. Clarity returned to his eyes as he accepted responsibility. Determination replaced avoidance, acknowledging he had been running from the name all along. Resolve hardened across their faces as he admitted he could no longer flee his past. Claudia watched him closely, sensing his determination returning. Their vehicle swerved violently through sharp turns. Nausea struck him while the driver pushed forward at relentless speed. At the academy gates, tension flared as Draco faced questioning students. Suspicion surrounded him, forcing a confrontation about his true intentions. Confusion spread between the girls as Draco's name echoed across the courtyard. Uncertainty replaced accusation for a brief moment. Sudden danger erupted overhead as mechanical forces descended. He seized Draco and urged immediate escape, revealing that Julius had chosen Draco as the target. Fury burst from him as he refused to abandon his precious student in danger. His hand tightened, voice strained by fear and urgency. Confusion replaced anger when the air shifted unnaturally. His expression froze, sensing a presence he could not immediately see. From the shadows, a dark-haired man emerged behind Draco, gripping her head with deliberate control. A cruel smile formed as he mocked the teacher's attachment. Cold explanation followed as the villain revealed repeated injections. Draco's body trembled violently, reduced to a manipulated puppet under his influence. Panic exploded across the courtyard as Draco screamed in agony. The teacher shouted her name desperately, while others rushed to summon help. The teacher reached toward Draco as she writhed under the villain's grip. Her fangs bared while his hand covered her eyes, forcing her into a violent reaction. Abruptly, Draco's expression shifted into a confident grin. Control returned to her gaze, revealing she had not been fully subdued. Surprise spread across the teacher and students as she admitted awareness of the scheme. Tension thickened when the villain realized his manipulation had failed. Standing tall, Draco faced him directly and asserted dominance. Determination settled over the courtyard as confrontation became inevitable. A group of monster girls stands around Washio while facing Julius. Their presence forms a quiet barrier that leaves Julius with little room to resist. Concern rises among the girls as the truth begins to surface. One of them realizes that Draco had been secretly involved from the beginning. Draco steps forward with a steady expression. Her posture shows determination as she prepares to reveal her true identity. Avoiding their involvement had been her original intention. Attention shifts toward the armband on Draco's arm. The symbol catches the group's interest because it looks familiar. Washio studies the crest on the pin more closely. Recognition quickly follows when he identifies it as the kingdom's symbol. Explains her mission while standing confidently before the others. As a member of the Order, she had been sent to investigate a criminal connected to an old incident. Washio listens quietly as Draco reveals another part of the plan. The cartridge used earlier had already been activated, allowing the process to continue without difficulty. Surprise spreads among the girls when they realize how many injections had been used. Confusion and curiosity fill the group as they try to understand the effects. Further explanation follows as the effects become clearer. The activation causes intense physical reactions at first. He watches Julius with satisfaction. Confidence fills her expression as she reflects on the success of the operation. The plan unfolded exactly as intended. Julius listens to Draco's explanation and admits that he had been completely deceived. Her confident attitude and detailed plan make it clear that she controlled the situation from the start. Washio reflects on the events that happened earlier. The date they shared and the sweet moments he remembered suddenly feel different. Embarrassment quickly spreads among the girls after the topic surfaces. Draco firmly denies that the kiss truly happened while the others react with surprise and teasing remarks. Draco abruptly ends the discussion. Her expression turns serious as she points directly at Julius and orders him to surrender. The substance used on him had been slowly losing effectiveness over time, weakening the trap she prepared. Julius calmly reveals that his preparation is complete. A confident smile appears as he raises his hand, signaling that something has already been set in motion. Suddenly, Draco's body reacts violently. Heavy breathing follows as her strength begins to fade. Washio and the others watch with shock while her condition rapidly worsens. Concern spreads across Washio's face as he tries to calm the situation. The sudden transformation makes the moment tense. Darkness slowly fills Draco's eyes as her fangs appear. Pain and confusion twist her expression while her body loses control. Black tendrils burst outward, spreading through the area with violent force. Panic surrounds the group as the strange power lashes across the scene. Black tendrils spread rapidly across the area as Draco loses control. The others watch in shock while the strange substance grows larger. The dark power expands around them as Julius celebrates the despair unfolding before him. The group struggles to react while Draco remains trapped within the violent transformation. Inside the academy hall, an evacuation order spreads quickly among the students. A teacher stands firmly while directing everyone to leave the building in an orderly manner. Outside the building, Draco suddenly loses control of her power. Dark energy spreads around her as her body begins shifting into a dragon-like form. A powerful roar bursts from Draco as her dragon form appears completely. Flames and debris explode across the area while the teacher is thrown away by the shockwave. Observation replaces panic as the person realizes that ordinary voices can no longer reach Draco. One conclusion becomes clear. Only a single person holds the power capable of stopping the rampaging Draco. Fear spreads among the watching students as a sinister voice encourages destruction. Panic appears on their faces, while the situation grows more hopeless. A strange magical pattern forms inside glowing eyes, showing that an outside force is influencing Draco's mind. High above the academy, Draco's dragon form flies through the sky, while energy surges downward. Amid the broken ground, the injured teacher slowly lifts his head while protecting the girl beside him. Pain covers his body, yet relief appears when he realizes she is safe. Far above, the raging dragon gathers a glowing blast inside its mouth. Determination replaces exhaustion as the teacher looks up and calls for Draco to return to her senses. The masked girl suddenly steps forward and strikes the dark figure before he can react. Her movement is fast and decisive, forcing him backward. After the strike, the masked girl's strength fades quickly. Exhaustion overtakes her body and she quietly begins to collapse. Meanwhile, Draco's dragon form continues moving across the battlefield, Her enormous body trembles while unstable power surrounds her. High above the academy, Draco releases a massive beam of energy. The attack tears through the school buildings, sending debris and flames across the area. From a distance, the dragon circles in the sky while frightened students gather below, watching helplessly as the school continues to burn. High above the academy, Draco's dragon form moves through thick clouds while unstable energy gathers around her body. Dark power suddenly surges from Draco's body as the transformation grows even more violent. Her arms and claws expand while black energy spreads across the area. Fear spreads among the remaining students as Draco begins gathering energy inside her mouth. A blinding beam erupts from the dragon's mouth and crashes toward the academy grounds. The massive attack strikes the earth with overwhelming force, shaking the entire area with a violent explosion. Silence slowly replaces the chaos as drifting smoke fills the sky. One student looks up with tears in her eyes, uncertain whether the destruction has finally ended. Amid the drifting smoke, the injured teacher slowly rises from the rubble. His body is bruised, yet determination remains clear in his posture. Nearby, the enemy watches with confidence, believing the exhausted teacher cannot fight any longer. The situation appears hopeless as the damaged battlefield surrounds them. Lightning-like energy surrounds him as his strength awakens, revealing his resolve to protect the students and confront the enemy directly. A violent force slashes through the air as a chained monster crashes against shattered ground. From a distance, a man desperately calls out to Draco, promising rescue while watching the creature struggle within a cracked barrier. Elsewhere, a dark-haired student observes calmly, explaining that a rampaging monster cannot return to normal. Behind him, the restrained beast continues thrashing. As tension spreads through the scene, the student admits uncertainty about reversing the transformation. At the same time, the man recalls a teacher's duty to protect students, urging immediate action to restore Draco. Suddenly, the monster breaks free and charges forward. A small dragon-like girl appears, reacting in alarm as chaos erupts. Flames surge around the man as the towering creature seizes him. Despite the danger, he struggles and tries to calm Draco's uncontrollable rage. The teacher stands firm before the raging dragon, urging her to steady herself. Dark energy slices through the air as the creature circles above, refusing to slow down despite his efforts. Sweat runs down his face while he studies her movements. Realizing ordinary restraint will fail, he prepares to test a different method against her uncontrolled transformation. A sudden blast erupts as the winged figure dives through smoke. The teacher signals confidently, yet the explosion consumes the space between them, drawing shocked cries from watching students. When the smoke clears, the dragon remains unharmed. Observers explain that her scales repel most magic, making weak spells useless and forcing consideration of extreme measures. Behind the anxious girls, a calm student steps forward. With a faint smile, he prepares to demonstrate a decisive lesson. The dark-haired student calmly dismisses the idea that a dragon's strength lies in its barrier. He challenges the frightened girl beside him, asking what truly makes an almighty dragon unstoppable. Above the battlefield, the dragon unleashes a blazing torrent downward. The teacher is struck by the overwhelming flames as the student declares that a dragon's true weapon is its breath. Two girls watch in horror as smoke spreads across the field. One calls out for their teacher while the other tries to steady herself despite rising panic. Through the haze, an explanation follows that dragonfire does not kill instantly. Instead, prolonged exposure to extreme heat steadily increases the risk of death. The student adds that the flames consume oxygen and release toxic gases. Hidden within thick smoke, the teacher's fate remains uncertain. Within thick smoke, the teacher coughs and struggles to see. Heat and fumes surround him as he shields his face, barely able to remain standing. Observing carefully, a student notes that he anticipated the danger. Using knowledge of airflow and human limits, the teacher minimizes harm despite the dragon's intense flames. Determination replaces fear as one girl steps forward. Beside her, another raises a device, preparing to act now that the teacher's survival seems certain. A powerful blast shoots upward, striking the dragon's tail. The sudden counterattack disrupts her movement, while smoke continues to spread across the field. Explosions ripple through the air as the dragon retaliates. Amid debris and shockwaves, the dark-haired student watches calmly, confident that events unfold according to expectation. The girls stare in disbelief as their attack seems useless. Through drifting smoke, the dark-haired student stands calmly, untouched and composed. He explains that the tentacles failed because he lacks a physical body. Existing only as spirit, he remains in an astral state beyond ordinary harm. Confusion spreads among the onlookers as they struggle to understand. The mysterious figure admits this is a rare condition, unlike anything previously encountered. With a faint smile, he suggests that the teacher may have already died. His form begins to fade into the surrounding haze. Shock erupts as he vanishes completely. An observer concludes that his true identity is Lich, a transcendent being who abandoned his physical body. The lifeless king descends silently above them, and the stunned students realize defeating the Elder Lich may be impossible. A violent beam bursts from a portal in the sky, tearing through buildings and shaking the city. Debris scatters as a wounded young man struggles upright amid smoke. High above, a dragon spirals wildly through clouds. Watching in alarm, he senses her fury spreading beyond control. Darkness surrounds the battlefield as a massive stream of energy surges forward. The dragon releases overwhelming power toward the distant ground. Shock fills his eyes while radiant bands coil around him. A protective sphere forms, isolating him within swirling light. Blinding brilliance erupts outward, consuming the sky. Explosions follow across the city below. Sweat runs down his face as he realizes the city will fall if the rampage continues. Urgency hardens his expression. Without hesitation, he dashes forward across broken ground. Above him, the dragon hovers, her fangs bared in uncontrolled rage. A blazing pillar of light descends from the sky. Bracing himself, he shields his body while the dragon unleashes destructive force. A sharp signal echoes as a device activates. Energy erupts around him, forming a barrier that propels him straight toward her. Through the smoke, a dark-haired figure watches calmly, a faint smile appearing as the clash reaches its peak. The girls launch repeated strikes, yet their blows barely slow the dark-haired man. Frustration spreads as they realize their attacks achieve almost nothing. Standing within the smoke, he calmly endures both physical and magical assaults. Confidence shows in his posture, untouched by their combined efforts. Moving behind one of them, he speaks with quiet certainty. A sudden counterattack sends her reeling, unable to land a solid hit. Shock overtakes the younger girl as she swings again, but her strike passes uselessly through him, leaving her unsettled. An explanation follows, revealing his existence in an astral state beyond normal physical reach. The girls protest the unfairness of facing an astral opponent who can strike them while remaining untouchable. Their frustration grows as sacred magic proves ineffective. Doubt spreads among them, yet the dark-haired man calmly denies being invincible. A faint smirk suggests hidden confidence. A strange odor drifts across the battlefield. One girl quickly identifies it as a corrosive gas spell and warns the others. Thick fumes surround them, triggering dizziness and overwhelming sensations. Panic rises as their bodies weaken under the unexpected attack. Amid the chaos, the wounded young man launches himself skyward, determination returning to his eyes as explosions flash around him. The dragon girl descends from the sky, her body trembling as unstable energy flickers around her. Seeing her fall, the young man shouts her name and stretches his hand forward. He lunges into the air and swings with urgency, yet his arm slices through empty space. The figure before him dissolves, revealing it was only a mirror image. A quiet voice behind him confirms the deception. Before he can fully turn, the real dragon closes in from his blind side. Instead of striking, she presses herself against him, eyes unfocused and breathing uneven. Her strength wavers as confusion replaces rage. He wraps both arms around her and holds on tightly. Suspended together in the open sky, he steadies her shaking body until the violent aura finally fades. A boy stands before a towering dragon, their minds linked through telepathy. Ancient memories surface as he recalls saving her long ago. Her presence appears inside his thoughts, crowned yet isolated. He senses her fear and the weight of being different. Surrounded by dark figures, the dragon curls inward. Pressure from unseen forces traps her, and distress fills the shared space. Shadows tighten like restraints. Panic rises as she struggles against the confinement closing around her body. Stepping forward, the boy reaches out calmly. Power spreads from his hand, scattering the darkness. The dragon shrinks to a small form, freed and safe before him. The small dragon looks up in confusion as the darkness fades. Recognition replaces fear when she sees the man before her. He lifts her gently into his arms. Relief softens his face while her tense body slowly relaxes against him. Tears gather in her eyes as memories return. The warmth of his presence feels unchanged from long ago. She buries her face into his shoulder, holding him tightly. Emotions overflow after enduring isolation and fear. Standing apart, he smiles reassuringly, despite his injuries. In her human form, she trembles with lingering guilt, yet remains grateful to be saved, once again. The man touches his injured forehead, then studies the grown dragon girl before him. Recognition settles calmly in his eyes. He accepts her question without hesitation, acknowledging how much she has changed since their first meeting. Leaves cling to her trembling body as she waits, tears spill freely down her cheeks. Joy replaces doubt, and her tense shoulders finally loosen. Overcome with emotion, she throws herself forward, revealing her name and the truth of her identity. Sharp fangs show through her wide smile as gratitude pours out. Suddenly, a powerful blast erupts nearby. He steps into the smoke, forming a barrier, while others watch in alarm. The group analyzes the enemy's astral state, concluding his soul must exist nearby as a vessel supplying magic. Claudia, the woman with short black hair, studies the theory carefully. While attacks clash in the air, their detection magic fails to locate any hidden core. Doubt spreads as the battle drags on. Time runs short. Claudia scans the surroundings, searching for an object or presence connected to the astral body. Suspicion shifts when the enemy behaves too casually. His confidence hints that the vessel may be closer than expected. Suddenly, an attack strikes. Claudia shields the child with her body, taking the blow as the others watch in shock. Claudia kneels beside Rimnoa-sensei, who has been struck protecting the child. Blood stains the floor as urgency overtakes hesitation. Recalling the theory about the soul's vessel, Claudia considers hidden spaces nearby. Her eyes shift toward the floorboards beneath them. Rimnoa-sensei entrusts the search to Claudia. Though injured, she urges immediate action before the enemy regains control. Dark energy gathers as the opponent attempts to interfere. Claudia rises without fear, moving past the threat with firm resolve. Allies step forward to block the enemy's path. With their support holding the line, Claudia rushes to uncover the hidden vessel below. Claudia rushes into Julia-sensei's room, recalling the faint gap she once sensed beneath the floorboards. The memory sharpens her focus, despite the chaos outside. She scans the room quickly, confirming the location near the desk where the space felt hollow. Determination replaces doubt as she moves into position. Without hesitation, Claudia braces herself and prepares to break through the wooden boards. The room falls silent for a brief moment. Her strike crashes down with force, splintering the floor. Dust and fragments scatter as the hidden layer beneath is exposed. A concealed staircase appears below. Standing at the edge, Claudia steadies her breath. Certain the vessel lies further down. Claudia descends the hidden staircase, aura blazing behind her, prepared to confront the soul vessel waiting below.